All right, let's get the chat going here. 1 second. Welcome back, everybody. How's it going? Hope you're having a wonderful day so far. We are back streaming once again, day after day. It does not stop. You know the rules. We are learning. Hello, Mohan. Hello, Sam. I appreciate you guys making it in tonight. Welcome, you two. How you guys doing this evening? Hope you two are well. What's going on, you guys? Edwards 404, welcome in. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. What's going on, man? Great to hear from you. Welcome back into the stream. Glad you're able to make it in. What you working on? What you studying this evening? How's it going, everybody? Wing Hong, welcome back in, my guy. It's great to hear from you. How you doing? Welcome back in. I hope you're well. How's the job hunt been treating you, Wing Hong? We haven't talked about that in a while. How's it been? How's the search been? Awesome. I'm doing great. Feeling good today. We finished my product for my company, and then I have not my company, the company I work for, and then I have submitted all the paperwork. So it's going to final review by the staff scientist, and then he'll hand it back to me with some minor corrections if he finds any, and then it'll be submitted completely. So I'm on the complete downhill here. I'm pretty much waiting for my next assignment, so it feels pretty good. I'm in relax mode. I just been taking it easy, getting those paperwork done. I'm just doing paperwork honestly the past all day today and Friday, last Friday. So, anyways, it was a great day today. Wing Hong, oh man, oh boy, zero responses from LinkedIn application studying leak code, dude. Honestly, LinkedIn is just a hellhole. It is. Like, honestly, I don't think nothing, LinkedIn doesn't work. Like, if anyone's gotten a job off LinkedIn, you are the minority. You are the, dude, I don't know what it is. I hear people all the time being like, oh, I got off some LinkedIn. But in reality, every person that I actually know that's like actually on like a somewhat level, like Wing Hong or me, like, or whatever, it's like LinkedIn does not work. It just, like, it's dude, I don't know. The job postings on there are fake in my opinion. They are so pretentious on there. They're searching for like niche candidates. It's at least in the chemistry science field. So, what's your guys' experience with LinkedIn job search? I got interviews from LinkedIn, but not a job. I think I have gotten an interview off LinkedIn, but dude, honestly, it sucks. But I think the way to go is you have to go company portal, like company website. But the thing is they always want to have you make some like workday account or some sort of account, and it's just like you don't want to. It's just take 20 minutes per application because at the end of the day, it is kind of a numbers game. But if that's the, it sucks, dude. What do you guys think? Edwards 404. Good, Michael. Nice to see you again. Great to see you again, Edwards. What you been working on and studying? Let me know what's been going on with you guys. How's you guys' studying been going? Whether it be Python, C, C++. We got a couple of those in here, I think. I think we have some. We have a couple of Swifties. We have a couple of some people that do it in Go. We have some people in the chat and in the Discord that program in. What else? What else do? Obviously HTML, CSS, JS, Java. What do you guys programming? Let me know more about you guys. I often just talk about myself. I need to get the Twitch started here. Hello, we are live on Twitch as well. Let me go ahead and actually pull that up. You guys can see me here on Twitch. There we go. Let's get out of there. I think I follow some old gamers on Twitch back in like Tyler, like back in League of Legends when I used to play that back in like high school and stuff. I was pretty in early college, man. I spent a lot of time grinding League of Legends. Let me know your guys' favorite champ in League of Legends, your favorite legend. I like to play Tristana bot lane. I always sucked. I always got wrecked. I like to play. I usually played support, Alistar support. I like to play Nunu jungle. Was also one of my mains. I was pretty good at Nunu jungle, I will say. I think it was like I almost got to out of silver, or is it almost to gold? No, maybe not. That might be a little bit naive. I'm pretty sure I was in bronze, dude. Like, man, once you get stuck down there, but it honestly, it's what's funny enough about League of Legends is no matter what rank you are in, well, no matter what rank you're in League of Legends, it always feels the same. Like in terms of you watch like higher rank things, the same mistakes happen and things. But it's just like a cascading effect. So I don't even know if the ranks really matter, but they technically do because I. But then again, I don't know. This is funny. I stopped playing games mainly because of carpal tunnel. I got really bad carpal tunnel in my wrist. I think from playing, which is a really bad old gaming mouse, and it really just put a halt to computer gaming. And so that's why we started programming pretty much. I replaced like gaming with programming, and here we are now. So a year later almost. Okay, we are rambling on and on and on. Let me catch up on some chats here. Leave a thumbs up on the stream here if you guys are in here early. If you guys are one of the first ones here, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Make your mark here on the stream. Really appreciate you guys joining here. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. Um, Tim, welcome in, my man. Awesome to have you back in. What's going on with you? All my three offers: one connection, two from Handshake. Handshake, interesting. Mine was off the company portal. That's what other people are saying. It's useless. Yeah, lots of positions for junior positions on LinkedIn. Looking for entry level with 3 to 4 years experience. CN Python exploits. Edwards. Oh, that's what you're working on. Nice. More. What you working on? More specifically, what kind of exploits you doing? I recommend the extension Simplify for mass applying. Mike used to party game, but now he's into the CS grind. No, no. I would go to like a couple of college, house parties like like on the Friday nights with some coworkers and stuff. But that was just typical college stuff. It was mainly just sitting on the couch talking and listening to music. Was there's nothing. And yeah, don't play Dota, no League. Edwards, you play League? What's your champ? What's your lane? Oh, I can't forget, I was also a Kane fanatic. I played Kane jungle so much. Maybe if we do like a special stream, maybe like once a month or something, we'll do a gaming stream and if I can on the MacBook, run a game of League or something. The MacBook Pro is pretty powerful. It can play League and Minecraft, at least from what I understand. So maybe we could throw a stream if I lower down the quality a little bit. What's your guys' champ if you guys play? Saying like real gamers do gym work on their wrist, your wrist for a week, not the gamer material. I know, right? Do they probably do like workouts and stuff to keep it up. I bet that would help. But I just quit. I was like, nah, I'm over here. Hey, Bright Sun, welcome in, dude. Welcome. I appreciate you for joining me. Tell me more about yourself. First time here. I teach myself CS50. Same, same. We've been teaching ourselves CS50. We started with Harvard CS50P. We are now teaching ourselves through CS50X, but we've also been reading some books like the Python Crash Course. We've read live on stream. We have been reading live on stream the data structures and algorithms in Python. We are on page 415 out of 7, or 437 out of 770, but 415 in the book pages, not overall. This is like including the index and all that stuff, I think. Um, but yeah, we're on week 9 of CS50X. We started the 1st of January 2025, and we're here into March. It's been flying by, dude. I honestly thought we'd be done in February. A little bit naive of me, I guess. Um, just because, I think we could have done faster, but we broke up the material with some other stream. If we did CS50 every single day on the stream, I think we could have been done in February. But because we broke it up with other content and I did my 5-day vacation, I broke our streak. Sorry, guys. We are started to back up, though. Uh, we yeah, because we broke our streak, we are back here. And so that also set us back a few days here. So thank you guys for appreciate you being patient with me as we get through this course. We are almost done. We obviously have to build a final project at the end of it, which I don't know. I think we can whip up something fairly quick. Uh, do, with our current, maybe our setup or our current, maybe we could use a past small project I've done and reformat it to be our final project for this or something. But then we're going to start diving into some math courses and really get into that machine learning potentially and really developing more intermediate to advanced Python with our Fluent Python book that we're also going to get into. I have a Discord link down below if you would like to join that to chat offline. I really encourage you guys to chat with me offline. I will reply to you whenever, or as much as I can. I am a chemist. I do work in a 9 to 5, but I have to be in the lab. But I do have like some time. I do schedule myself quite well. So in between, like on my lunch breaks and in between testings and stuff, I do have some time to reply. And it's a fairly independent product building job as a chemist, at least in my manufacturing area. And so I yeah, just by that, I encourage you guys to interact on in the Discord and chat in there. Use the resources. I've provided you guys all of my resources from the PDF versions of the books I'm reading live on stream to my personal notes on those books, as well as my project ideas, project examples, details about them, solutions to my problem sets for these weekly problem sets in CS50 as well. So everything's in there, you guys. I appreciate you guys. Insomniac, my 9 to 5 is 9 to 10 these days. Meh. I know. I feel you. Yeah. What kind of work you in, Insomniac? Are you a dev? Colby Spray. Your sarcasm respect. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for hopping in here and joining me. You've been in here a few times, so I appreciate your consistency as well. This is just as much as about you as it is about me here. So I appreciate you coming in and learning alongside me or refreshing your memory on these topics. But let's go ahead and without further ado, let's go ahead and we are jumping into week 9, part 2 of Harvard CS50X on Flask. This is the lecture watch along for week 9. This is the part 2 of 2. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'll go ahead and reply to your guys' chats in the actual chat box, but let's go ahead and continue on here. Let me know if the audio is all right for you guys.
All right, we are back. So back in 1997, the way that Harvard undergraduates would register for freshman intramural sports, otherwise known as Frosh IMs, was they would pick up a piece of paper, they would write down their name on it, they would check off a box for any of the sports that they wanted to participate in, and then they would walk across Harvard Yard, open up one of the dormitory doors, and slide the sheet of paper under the door of what's known as a proctor, a resident advisor who was running the sports that year. Suffice it to say, there was an opportunity to move all of this online, even though the internet itself was still rather in its infancy, or at least as we now know it. However, I had already taken CS50 in fall of 1996. This was probably the spring or fall thereafter. And I decided, even though CS50 at the time didn't even introduce people to web programming, I actually tried to learn a bit of it on my own. And I undoubtedly did not do things very well, and certainly not the best way possible. But at the time, I taught myself a language called Perl, which was very popular for web programming. Nowadays, we have languages like Python and PHP and Java and Ruby and JavaScript and many others as well. But the point is that even after just CS50, maybe one other programming course, you really should have this solid foundation via which to teach yourself new languages, much like the trajectory we've had you on from Scratch to C to Python to SQL to JavaScript, and now bringing it all together in the context of web programming. So let's, without the ugliness, recreate a little bit of what I built way back when to allow students to register for Frosh IMs via a web browser instead of a piece of paper. Let me flip over here to VS Code, where in advance of this demonstration, I prepared a few files based on the hello demos from before. In particular, in a Frosh IMs directory, which I created anew, I have the following files already: app.py, requirements.txt, and templates. And inside of templates, I have index.html and layout.html. And let me go ahead and hide my terminal window. You can see in the latter the following layout, which is identical to what we used a moment ago for our hello examples, but I've changed the title from hello to Frosh IMs. The index template, meanwhile, extends that layout, or equivalently inherits from that layout, but I haven't put any body inside of this block here. I deleted what we had before, just so I don't have to type as much to get us started now. And then in app.py, similarly, I copied the first couple of lines of code, but deleted all of my routes, just so that I, again, don't have to type all of those from scratch.
Yeah, okay.
But let's go ahead now and implement the simplest of registration forms for some number of sports. And what I'm going to do is the following. I'm going to go over to my index.html, which again extends already layout.html, and let's begin to put together a registration form. I want this page to very clearly be about registration, so I'm going to use like an h1 tag, and I'll say register, for instance. And then below that, I'm going to have the start of a form tag, the action of which I could make anything including slash itself, but let's keep things clear, and let's have the action be /register for this one. And the method for this one will be quote unquote post. Inside of this form tag, notice now, I'm going to have an input. I'm going to turn off autocomplete as before. I'm going to turn on autofocus for that input. And I'm going to specify that the name of this input is itself name, because this is going to be for the student's name who's registering. The placeholder value I'm going to use is capitalized name to make clear in gray text what they should type in. And the type of this, just to be explicit, is indeed going to be a text box.
Gotcha.
Now I'm going to introduce another form element that you see all over the place on the web. Even if we haven't necessarily had occasion to use it ourselves, I'm going to have a select menu, which is equivalent to a drop-down menu in a browser. And the name for this menu is going to be sport, because I want this drop-down menu to be a list of sports that the student can select. Inside of that, let's come up with 3 sports for now. Option, value equals basketball. And then inside of the open tag and close tag for option, I'm going to just repeat myself, basketball. Then below that, I'm going to have another option whose value is going to be soccer, American football in this case. Then I'm going to type soccer inside of the open tag and close tag. And then the third and final option will have a value of quote unquote ultimate frisbee. And then inside of that open and close tag, I'll say again ultimate frisbee. So this clearly evinces some redundancy. However, what this reveals is that with a select menu, much like with links, with the anchor tag, you can have the human see one thing, but the value actually used is another, even though for simplicity, I'm keeping them exactly the same. Now, let me go ahead and go into my other tab, which up until now has been saying hello, David, and hello, world, but I haven't stopped running Flask. And so if I keep doing this and reload, if I keep visiting this URL, I'm going to keep seeing that form. And if I type in David, I'm going to click agree because my previous web application is still running. So I can't just start making a new web application and expect that this browser tab is going to work, even though it's still port 5000.
Well, we put
Let me
debug
go
true?
back to VS Code, open my terminal window, go to my very first terminal, wherein we see all of the logs from
true?
Flask that have been running. And in fact, among the error
I've been watching some
there
videos.
is actually some diagnostically useful output sometimes. What Flask is showing you in this terminal window, even though I've hidden it most of the time, is a log that is a recording of all of the GET requests and all of the POST requests that came from a browser to the server. And you're seeing dates and times, the IP address, and so forth, some of which is going to be not very useful in this environment because we're using a code space instead of putting this website on the actual web publicly. Everything is private now to me, but there is some diagnostically useful information there. For instance, this GET request at the top returned a status code of 200, as did every POST and GET below that. But this, too, is, again, where we'll see any errors. And if we start introducing SQL before long, we'll even see copies of our SQL queries so that we can diagnose any problems in those. But this is all to say that I don't want Flask to be running in my hello folder anymore. So I'm going to hit Control-C to interrupt that. I'm going to hit CD to get back to my default folder. I'm going to type CD frosh.ims now, which my other terminal was already in. And indeed, if I type ls in here, I see those same files. But now I'll clear my terminal, and I'm going to rerun Flask run in my frosh.ims folder. Turns out that's going to open up the same port, 5000 by default. So in fact, I can just directly go back to this tab, which previously was my hello app, and just by reloading that URL, enter, now I see, not found, 404. So I've clearly broken something. But why is that? Well, I don't have any routes in this frosh.ims application yet because I started almost from scratch. So let me go ahead and close my terminal window for now and go back to app.py, and let's just start serving up that default template quite simply. Let's do app.route as before, quote unquote slash. Let's create a function as before called index. So we could call it technically anything we want. And let's have this function do very little. Let's just return render template passing in index.html.
Okay.
Now for this new web application, that /route exists, which means if I go back to my other tab, hopefully it will be found when I click reload, And sure enough, there is my registration form with a name field, and the cursor is auto-focused inside of it with the cursor blinking. And there's my select menu.
Okay,
Indeed,
select
if I
menu
click
is a
on it, I
drop
see
down.
basketball, soccer, and ultimate frisbee. So this form doesn't really do anything yet. And frankly, I'm not sure I love the fact that basketball is sort of the implied sport. Like, it would be nice to maybe see a default value or a blank value. That's just an aesthetic detail. If I go back to VS Code here, go back into index, there's a few ways I could fix this. I could do, for instance, option value equals quote unquote maybe nothing, because it's a default value, and I could just say something like sport to be sort of a title for that drop down. Let me go back to my browser, reload, and yeah, sure enough, I now have sports as the top option. But this is a little weird because I don't want the user to be able to register for sport.
You don't want people to register.
I don't really want it to be a selectable option. So it turns out there's some other attributes we can play with in this context. And in fact, if we want to display a title like that, sport, we can actually specify that the option itself is disabled, but it is selected by default. So these are two other HTML attributes that you can use with the option tag in HTML. They don't need values, so they don't need equal signs or quote marks. You can just say disabled and selected. But now when I go back to this tab and reload once more, notice that it indeed still says sport, but it's grayed out. So I can't actually submit that value. I can only choose from these three things.
Oh, no. AirPods are dying, guys. Oh, no. Hold up. We're going to have to pause for a
And
sec.
using libraries like...
Hold up. Oh. Hold on. I got to go grab my charger here. Ugh. Dang it. Well, that's a buzzkill. I was flowing there. Good thing AirPods charge real fast. I actually sent these suckers through the wash on accident. These are AirPod Pro Max, not AirPod Pro Max, AirPod Pros, and yeah, they were left in my pocket and my pants, and I threw them through the wash, and I was going to put them in the dryer, and they fell out, and I was like, oh no, oh no, and anyways, I threw them in a bowl of rice and took the AirPods out, and I put rice down the little holes, and I just threw everything in rice and left it overnight. Good as new, baby. It worked right as good. It worked all good. But I have Apple Care, so I might just go ahead and try to get a new pair with the Apple Care. Say I sent them through the wash and get my insurance worth out of it. Maybe they aren't as good a quality anymore. I just don't know, right? Because, right? All right, hold on. We're just waiting for my AirPods to charge up here a little bit. 1%. Come on, you got it. Keep pushing. Let me keep pushing here. The case is charged, so it's gonna start charging these guys first here. So it should go pretty quick here. Anyways, let me know, guys. What are you guys studying this evening? What you guys working on? Let me know. What you guys working on this evening? Shout out AJ if he's here in the chat. Shout out AJ. Got your message last night. Haven't responded to it yet on Discord. I need to. If you pop in here, I'll let you know. I'll give you a shout out again. But he sent me a really nice message yesterday about giving me some details about Flask, get and post requests, the URL like slash thing, routing, and then some resources within the MDN docs. So shout out AJ for those resources there. Appreciate that. You guys are enjoying the stream so far, leave a thumbs up. Sorry, we are taking a little bit of a pause. My AirPods just died. So I gotta have some headphones to listen to while we continue. Or else it'll be annoying for you guys. So let me see, where are we at here on these guys? 5%? It's not fast enough here. I'm plugging them into the big guy here. Oh, shoot. That's USB. Oh, shoot. Dang it. Well, I gotta let it do its thing here for a sec. You guys can join the Discord link down below. I really appreciate you guys. I also have a Twitch. You can totally get access to the Twitch. Hold up. Let me see. I think I actually... Yeah, I need to put the Twitch in the description. Oh, my bad. Some person on Twitch is going crazy, rocking out. Going crazy, rocking out. Oh, that's annoying. Sorry. Right. Let me go ahead and put that in the Discord, in the description of the stream here. For you guys. I need to permanently put it in my template, but I keep forgetting. Lazy me, lazy me. Sorry, guys. My AirPods just died. That's why we had to pause. Sorry. I am just waiting for it to charge up for a second, then we'll continue on. So I have been watching some videos on Flask and a little bit of free time I had, like on my lunch break and stuff. So I just put the Twitch stream link in the description, guys. If you want to follow along on to my Twitch, feel free to do so there. Let's get caught up on some chats here. Get connections, people with connections who understand the projects, get the job. And Sumnak, how do you make connections? Just message people on LinkedIn. Math. What? Working on some grad level of data visualization, Mike. Nice, Tim. Turns out it just isn't simple as just opening Excel. Yeah, it would be nice, right? Oh, my neck. Sends a hello message and connect with them that you're interested in the position. Start from there. I mean, yeah, like at the very least, like what are they gonna just do? Ghost you? Well, you're already getting ghosted right now, so at the very least, it can only, do something more, right? Working with WASM, WASM, what? WASM and JavaScript. Hey, Hollow Miniature, welcome back in. Appreciate you for joining me here. Welcome back to the stream. Appreciate you for being here. You're awesome, dude. Welcome back. It's evening over there yet myself. I just woken up. Yeah, it's 7:39 p.m. Appreciate you for joining me here this morning for you. Good morning. What kind of breakfast you having? Welcome. What can I refer to you as? A Mazua Shakes. Is that really is that your name or let me know. There are websites like Mentor Cruise where you can have one-on-one about the industry. Nice. Good advice going on in the chats there. All right. All right. Let's go ahead and it's charging up here. Let's let it charge for a couple more minutes and then we'll get going here. My fault, guys. My fault. Let's share an orange. I got a cutie orange here. Let's go ahead and share it. What'd you guys have for dinner this evening? Made myself some mac and cheese, Trader Joe's mac and cheese, and then I threw in some grilled chicken nuggets in there. Yeah, air fried. So I had chicken and mac and cheese, and quite a few of these cutie oranges. I've been pounding these. What you guys working on tonight? Let me know. Oop. We're dripping. Can't be dripping. What are you guys working on? What are you guys studying? Okay. So, let's just talk about Flask real quick. So I watched some videos, and from my understanding, I just watched a couple of different creators just kind of go over the very intro. And from my understanding, it's just like a way to, basically create templates of HTML, right? So you can reuse things, like a framework. And then using Jinja syntax, using Jinja's template library, I can, insert these variables or whatever. And then I can use Flask to do get and post requests. And so the difference between those, from my understanding, what you guys were explained was, that when I'm trying to access something like something in my static, like an image that's on my site, or an image that's in the user's, um, you know, in the database, well, that doesn't really provide any like search inquiry. That just needs to get something back from a certain location in my memory database. So I could use a get request to get that image, right? Um, like basically get, you know, that piece of information. But for a post request, let's say that the user was searching for all the friends named Ryan in their friends list, and let's say they have quite the list of Ryans. Well, it would be like a search inquiry that we would be like, you know, probing the database for with information specific that the user kind of detailed. So it would be a post to get those specific Ryan users. Now, let me know how that example sounded. But then, so it was helpful to understand that the route portion is taking place, basically whatever happens after the slash, right? You can use Python functions, right? Like this def index return hello world. You can use Python functions at that app.route for whatever slash, whatever. So by default, on the home page of this, of this program example, it's going to display hello world. But if I had a different path here that the user could then visit, I would need to call, a function have a similar framework to this, but for that specific path inside of here, and then call that function to do whatever was on that page. Right now, I could call right here a return on a template. Right now, that's what's interesting here now is that's what I was missing last night, and what he went over, but kind of I didn't really pick up the pieces, was that you can return rather than just text here. I was like, well, I don't want to have to like type out my HTML like all in this, and whatever, all within this function or whatever, right? But you can just call a render template, method or whatever function that you import in from Flask, to reference a template within your current directory of HTML. Now, that being template like a page that the user will visit. So let's say you currently have your home page, you're displaying hello world, but then you can also define a function for like, sign in or whatnot that the user can then get to by either, typing in and adjusting their browser with putting sign in past the slash sign, or having an href in that main index reference. If you had an index reference, if you had an href in here for getting to that page, right, through an anchor tag, then that's how you could get there as well. So I just needed to put together those pieces, and I'm feeling a little bit better now. Now let's go ahead and continue on. I think our sturdy, trusty old AirPods that went through the wash are good to go. They have stood the test. So you guys know I sent these suckers through the wash. They were soaked and dried them up with some rice, and good, back to normal. So get your money's worth, but I still have the apple care. Let's go ahead and continue on with the lecture here. Let me know about that Flask description. If you guys have any other opinions or want to maybe alter and add your own input, please let me know. I really appreciate your guys' input here on Flask, and what you guys interpret it as, and or if you have any edits to what I would like to say, let me know if I was saying something, because I want to be making sure I'm learning the right stuff. Domino's $6.99 medium pizzas with 2 toppings with my dinner. It's a splurge. Nice, dude. Those are a good one. Emancio shakes. Nice. Hopefully I'm saying it right. I'm enjoying this Flask course. Nice. If recruiters at ATS avoid your resume, the only way to talk to someone is who's working there and get some attention from the recruiter. Yeah. That's definitely a good idea, for sure. Sausage and mushroom is the wing hong pizza of choice. Test your API calls with the postman. Your sexy AirPods are connected. You know it, Tim. You know it. Here we go. Let's go ahead and keep going here.
Like Bootstrap for CSS. You can style these things even more beautifully than this, but this is perhaps the simplest way to at least have a title for that there select menu. All right, I need one more thing in this form. Let me, below my select menu here, let's do a button, the type of which is submit, and then that's going to be a register button now instead of greet. So if now I go back here and reload one more time, now I have the name, the sport dropdown, and the registration button as well. But we're not yet in a position to do anything with that information until I think we implement another route. So let me go back to VS Code. Let me open up app.py. And in addition to my index route, which is just serving up that web page, let's create another route, app.route, quote unquote register. This one, just for privacy reasons, is going to use post instead of get. So I'm going to say, quote unquote, post inside of a Python list there.
Okay.
Let's define another function called register. Though again, it can be anything I want, but I like to name them exactly the same as the routes themselves to keep things straightforward.
Okay.
And then let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and check whether the user has registered or not, and then tell them whether we're successful or there's a failure. So for now, let's actually, well, let's do this. How about we return this to keep it simple? Return render template, and let's pretend like a template exists for success.html.
Okay.
This suggests that I should probably have a template called success.html. So let's whip one up really quickly. And in success.html, let me do this. First, let me open my terminal and get to a prompt so I can type code. Actually, first, cd templates to make sure it's in the right place. Then code success.html. In this file, I do need a bit of boilerplate. So extends, quote unquote, layout.html with the close quote this time. Then block body over here. Then I'll do an end bloody body. Oh, so close. Block body.
Bloody
then
body.
Let's end block down here. And inside of here, let's just say something successful like you are registered. Well, not really, because we haven't actually done the hard part yet. Let me go back now to app.py just to confirm that, OK, when this route is called, no matter what for the moment, we will render success.html. So let's try it. Let's go back to the browser here, type in David. Let's choose, say, basketball for the sport, and click register. And internal server error 500, which we know is my fault. So let's go back to VS Code. Let us open up my terminal window. Let's go to the first one that's running Flask run. And I did it again somehow. A template syntax error, unexpected curly brace. All right, well, where could that be? I did it again, but this time with a different character. OK, so I was so focused on adding the double quote, I did not add, in fact, the curly. I was so focused on adding the double quote, I did not add the second % sign. So now let's go back to my internal server error, click reload, resubmit the form that I just submitted, and now I'm told you are registered. Well, not really. That's because the route's not doing anything intellectually interesting yet. It's just rendering that template blindly. All right, well, let's improve upon that. I think what we should require is that to register for a sport, the student should have to provide.
Wait, my question is how is he... How is the register button communicating with that register function? Did I miss that? Like... So you have select a form, action, okay, the action of this form goes to this this route. So once this form is submitted, it proceeds to this route. Okay. Okay, let's continue on.
fact, let me go back to index.html, and let me actually do this. Let me just the same kind of logic we could have done. Let's not type a name. Let's not choose a sport and click register. Now let us open and somehow a template syntax again, but this time with a different character. OK, so I was so focused on adding the double quote, I did not add, in fact, the curly. I was so focused on adding the double quote, I did not add the second % sign. So now let's go back to my internal server error, click reload, resubmit the form that I just submitted, and now I'm told you are registered. Well, not really. That's because the route's not doing anything intellectually interesting yet. It's just rendering that template blindly. All right, well, let's improve upon that. I think what we should require is that to register for a sport, the student should have to provide a name and have to provide a sport. Unfortunately, that is not a current requirement. For instance, if I go back to the form and I don't type in a name and I don't type in a sport and click register, I'm still told you are registered. To be fair, I'm told, well, not really. So, let's make clear that this is a bug. Let's get rid of the parenthetical. Let's go back to the form. Let's not type a name. Let's not choose a sport and click register. Now it's clearly buggy because I am not, in fact, registered. I've done nothing with this information. All right, let's go back to VS Code here. Let's go back to app.py, and let's express this idea of if there's not a name or there's not a sport, it is a failure. Do not let the user register. So let's try this. We can express this in a few different ways in Python. I'm going to propose to do it like this.
Here we go.
If there is not a value for request.form.get quote unquote name, or there is not a value for request.form.get quote unquote sport, then go ahead and return render template quote unquote failure.html. Else, if there is a value for name and for sport, great, let's go ahead and render template success.html. Now I can tighten this up slightly. Strictly speaking, if I'm conditionally returning a template in line 14, I don't really need the else. So just to type this out, I'm going to remove that altogether. But this is just the same kind of logic we could have done in C or in Python before we introduced Flask, or in JavaScript. This is equivalent to an if-else because returning, of course, immediately returns from this register function. So you don't strictly need the else. And I'm doing this just to tighten up the code, but it's not logically necessary. Of course, failure.html.
So is form, so we use the request function, request keyword, right? Call the dot form. What is form? Is form like the DOM? Like, what is form? And we'll use the get function to get the value at the key value. So obviously form is a dictionary, or request form is a dictionary, and we're getting the value associated with the key of quote unquote name and quote unquote sport, right? But what exactly is the form? Form equals field. Can you elaborate, Insomniac? We're just changing words here. We're just giving an alias here. Oops, name equals field. Name equals field in a form. Form is the method from the HTML form to pull everything from form in HTML. Form is the HTML script. Request form pulls everything that's given from HTML's form tags. And what are the form tags? We've never had to implement form tags. Is that going on under the hood somewhere, like in the browser, or like I've only used like the body tags and all that. Like I've never. Ooh, we got our typical Twitch spammer coming in for the first chat of the day here. Unclean Baritone, best viewers, stream boo. And name and sport or fields, if either one is missing, it's failed. Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's basically like this form this form has fields in it with name and dictionary, which are key value pairs in a dictionary essentially. in the HTML he typed form method get action that's registered form. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's referencing the form from his HTML document. Okay, so I need to follow along here with what's going on. I have to. So what's his directory that he's in? No, what's it called? I don't know. We'll just do temp here for now. Okay, so let's go make a app.py. Let's make a success.html. Let's make a layout.html. Let's make an index.html. So then we need, what are his other directories that you need in the Yeah, I was thinking about Python exactly, Insomniac. So then how do we get how do you reference then what if you have multiple forms, right? So how do you just declare like you would in HTML and CSS? How do you give either the hashtag ID or the dot class for that form? Let's say like if I can't just blindly call forms, I think this what this is doing is requesting the first form element in the HTML page for the slash register route, which will be render template, you know. Mm-hmm. Form name form 1, form name form 2. Yeah, so you have different names. So then oh, so he's just saying explicitly dot form because that is the name of the form created by default. Now you would provide dot ID. Yeah, you create a unique ID for entries in a database. Hmm. Okay, let me quickly just let me quickly do this. Request, right? So we're gonna do app equals to Flask under name app.route. Cool. Route. So I'm just going to plug these in here so I can follow along better. I suggest you guys do the same if you're learning. Definitely. So remind me again then, why does he use this method post here for this register? If all of it, if it, oh, because you're receiving information back like a name and a sport and we want to save that in the database. We're not doing a get request, which will basically like um, which is getting just the specific static, place or image or whatever. So because we're posting, we want to pretty much receive the user's input and post that into the database for some sort of query for, like I said earlier, like in my example, if like we're trying to find users in our friend list named Ryan, well, we want to know what the user said exactly as Ryan. We don't want to just pull up an image. So I don't know. That's it. You could create unique ID, yeah. It's form. Which HTML files do we reference to? I forgot. I think index.html. If it's success, it goes to success.html, and failure goes to failure.html. You basically use a callback URL. Hey Ryan, welcome in on the Twitch. I see you over there. How's it going? Can you check what's inside the index.html file to see if you set up from form? Okay, so post. So then we say def register, right? If not, request.form.get quote name, right? Or not, request.form.get quote sport, return render template quote failure.html, and then return render template quote success.html. So that's our app.py so far. Okay, let's keep going here.
HTML does not yet exist, so let me save a couple.
Okay, so in our success.html, he's calling the extends quote layout.html with a percent using the Jinja syntax, right? All this is, it looks funky, but this is the Jinja syntax, so it's kind of more of a just go with it kind of thing, just how it is. Like, it's just what they decided. There's really no rhyme or reason, I don't know. So you are registered, and then we have to do the end block, which will, these reference basically like input values, kind of like f strings almost, for inserting from our layouts, layout.html, that basically kind of like a base HTML structure, including that head and that the title and the maybe some JavaScript if it's in there, or the HTML reference, or sorry, the CSS reference, all that kind of stuff, or relationship, you know, all that kind of jazz. Post method equals send new data. Get method equals retrieve data. Post method creates new data. Post Malone creates new music. Post method creates new data. That's how we'll remember it. Post Malone creates new music that we get to listen to. Post Malone creates new music that we get to listen to. That's how we'll remember it. How do you like that? You guys got a favorite Post Malone song? All right, let's keep going.
Couple keystrokes here. Let me copy the contents of success.html. Let me go into my terminal, create another file called failure.html. I'm going to go ahead, just to save a moment in class, to copy paste that there. But I'm going to say this in this template, you are not registered. Now, granted, I'm copying and pasting, which almost always is a bad thing. But when it comes to using templates in Flask, using Jinja here, you do still need lines 1, 3, and 7 to make this work. So those are necessarily copy-pastable or retypable. But now I think we have two scenarios. Let me now go back to the form. Let me go ahead and type in my name and choose my sport and click register, and we're still good. We haven't done anything with the data, but at least the human cooperated. But if I go back now, reload the page, don't type a name, don't choose a sport, and click register, aha, Now we're at least telling the user they are not registered. All right, so we're making progress. We are conditionally checking whether or not the user has actually registered for a sport. Let's now make sure that they can't really, hack us or do something malicious, right? Because right now, if they type in their name and they type in a sport, we will register them, or so we say. But recall that anything client-side isn't necessarily robust. In fact, let me go back to index.html, and let me actually do this. Let me add the required attribute.
Okay, we want to go to index.html here. Okay, here we go. So we're going to go here, percent extends, like usual, layout, our layouts. Now, like I'm under my impression, these can be any title. It's just they're saying layouts. It could be template.html or base.html, but it's just layouts.html is what currently houses our layout used for Jinja to recognize. So then we have quote n block percent block body. Sorry. Like so. So inside of our block body, we're going to have an H1 for a register header, large header. We're going to create a form. You guys know the hotkey to skip auto to the end of the line? You guys know that hotkey? Please let me know. Like if I'm in like here and I want to just skip automatically. No, that's not it. Command option. No. Control? No. Shift? No. Shift command? No. Let's go shift option? No. Shift control? No. Shift command? No. That highlights the whole thing and then you can get to the end. So do you have to do shift control and then just do one more arrow? I had some help was an all-timer. Is that a Post Malone song? Function right arrow. Function. Where's your function button? Hold on. Oh, okay, so it is, but function's kind of like all the way out of the way. It's by delete. So do I want to? That's kind of a, I don't know. All right, shift command arrow. There are VS Code extensions that will help you autocomplete tags and useful features. That's a good idea. I should research some of those because I oftentimes find myself stuck, like just hitting 4, hitting like 2 to get through a parenthesis or whatever. So I want to know. So yeah, Ryan said it right. He said shift function. No, just function arrow gives you over, but functions on the Mac keyboard is all the way over here. Right, but on the laptop keyboard, it's in a really convenient place. Actually, it's in the bottom left. It's right. It's right here to the left of control. It's kind of mirrored probably for you guys, but functions all the way over here by F13 for me. So on this magic keyboard here. Okay, so he has a form with an action equal to quote / register. So this will basically go to the register route when the form is submitted on an action, okay? And then we're going to use a method of post. We're going to send data. So inside of this form, we're going to open an input, autocomplete equals quote off, autofocus, right? Name is equal to quote name. For just getting the name of this input field is going to be name for the getting user's name, just as by convention, by convenience or whatever. Name for placeholder will be the light gray text inside. He's about to type something called required text or type equals quote text. and then that's closed there. He opens up then from there a select, which is a drop down menu, right? Equals name, quote, sport, which will be the default one by default. Or no, sorry, name sport. That's the name of this drop down menu that we can call for reference. So the option within this drop down menu is going to be disabled selected value, which is the which will mean that it's just blank at the start, right? Disabled selected value gives us a blank selected value, which will just be sport. And then we come here, or it doesn't actually have a value inside, but just a disabled. So that one doesn't have a value, it's just a blank, but it's disabled and it's selected off the bat, right? So now we have these ones, value equals basketball, basketball. We'll make this soccer. Ooh. And then we'll make this one ultimate frisbee. Shake that. Paste that there. Okay, and then that closes our select. Okay, so we do have a button actually within this form. I didn't see that at the bottom. So we have a button, type equals to quote submit. So that'll submit this form, and then the action will then take place, I'm guessing. Okay. So then we're going to also need to include the Jinja syntax for including the end block insert from our layouts, layout.html. Keyboard demonstration. In insert mode, in command mode. Hey Jackson C, welcome. I appreciate you coming in and leaving a message here. How's it going with you? Do you have an N key? An N key. And yeah, I do have an N key. Does that work? Hold on. Oh, wow. Okay. There's an end key. Ryan showed. So shout out Ryan, trash catch him. End key will jump you to the end of the line. You learn something every day here. Okay, let's keep going.
Here, and let me add the required attribute here. You don't need to give it a value with an equal sign and quote unquote. Let me go back to my browser and click reload, and now let me try to click on register without giving a name or a sport. Unfortunately, the browser prevents me, or fortunately, the browser prevents me. So let me type in David. Let me not choose a sport. Register. OK, so we seem to have error checking now, preventing the human from submitting this form without valid data. But not quite, because indeed, all of this is happening client-side. If I view source in my browser, I can see the required attribute at the end of the input tag and at the end of the select tag here. But recall that this is my copy of that HTML. And if I want to be malicious, I could control-click or command-click on my viewport and choose Inspect to open my developer tools. Recall from last time, I can look at the elements of this page, pretty printed like this. And notice here, let me shrink the CSS part of this window. Notice that I can actually edit this HTML if I want. For instance, I can sort of click on required, click delete, and then save it. And now the required attribute is gone. I can do the same here on the select field and get rid of that, and now it's gone. And now I can type in David, but I can, for instance, skip the sport and click register, and it doesn't stop me anymore from doing that because I've disabled client-side validation. Moreover, things can get even more malicious. Suppose that in a protest vote, I don't want to register for basketball or American football, aka soccer or frisbee. Like, I want to register for like actual football, so in the European sense, for instance. So let me go into my attributes here. Let me change the value of soccer to football. Let me change what the user sees from soccer to football. And now let me go ahead and save that. Now let me confirm that I've still got my name. But notice now I can register for football instead of soccer, click register, and now I'm registered for a sport that, at least semantically, is not even supported in the web application itself. And frankly, by that logic, I could have registered for any sport that I happen to type in into the web page's HTML, which is to say we need server-side validation. It is fine to use client-side validation as by adding the required attribute in places if you just want to give the user immediate feedback and prevent sort of good users from doing something incorrect or foolishly. You can't prevent the adversaries, the malicious users, from messing around with your form using client-side techniques alone. So let's go into VS Code again, and let's this time open up app.py. And in app.py, let's go ahead and make a canonical global variable containing all of the sports that are officially offered this semester.
We're gonna make
so let me create a variable, and I'll call it sports in all caps. Even though Python does not have constants per se, still conventional to capitalize the variable just to make clear that you shouldn't change this, and it's global. Let me go ahead and set this equal to the following Python list. This list is going to contain basketball, quote unquote, soccer, quote unquote, and ultimate frisbee here as well. And it's often conventional to have a trailing comma even after the last element just to make it easier to copy paste and reorder things in code, even though logically it's not, in fact, necessary. What am I going to go ahead and do next now? Well, if I have now this variable containing all of these sports, I don't actually need to hard code them into my template. So I'm actually going to do this. Let me pass in a placeholder called sports into this index template and set it equal to that global variable's value. And now in index.html, let me go ahead and instead of enumerating all of these sports manually, let's use another feature of Jinja, which is going to make our life easier and much more dynamic, whereby I can use a Jinja for loop instead. So let me go into my select tag here below that disabled option. Let me use open curly brace %, for sport in sports. So notice this is Jinja syntax per the curly brace and per the %, but it's very Python-like. It's very similar to the exact syntax you would use in Python, but there's no colon. And strictly speaking, we're inside of the template here. Below that, let me just proactively say end for. And it's a little weird, but again, this is how Jinja does things. You end the name of the Jinja tag that you began per its documentation too. And then inside of this loop, let's just generate one option at a time. So open bracket option value equals quote unquote. And this is where templating gets really powerful. Curly brace, sport, curly brace, close quote, and then so that the human sees the same, let's do it again out there as well. But technically, those could be different values from what the human sees and the browser sends. So now we don't have 3 sports here manually typed in. We're doing this dynamically because we're passing in a placeholder called sports, but instead of just spitting out its value, we're using a for loop in Jinja to iterate over that loop and generate 1, 2, 3 options programmatically.
That's kind of crazy.
So here is the programming in web programming. We are generating all the more HTML now using some logic. All right, let's now go back to my other tab, go back to the original page, and click reload. I screwed up somewhere else. All right, so let's go back to VS Code. Let's open up my terminal window. Let's click on the first terminal. And oh, name error. Sport is not defined. Did you mean sports? So now Python is very graciously trying to be nice to me here. Yes, I did mean that somewhere. So let's go back to app.py. Stupid mistake. Sports equals sports. So now if I go back to my browser, click on reload, now I have another error. No, so we go back to VS Code, reopen the terminal. Now I'm just an idiot. So it's not sports with 2 S's. So that was a misclick. Let's delete that and let me stop touching the keyboard. Let me go back to the browser. Let me reload a third time. And there we have it. Very impressive, I know. So now I've got my, thank you for the applause. Now we've got the name field, the sport field, all of which are still there, but they were dynamically generated based on the value of that variable. So what's
Wow,
valuable
that's cool.
about that technique? Well, one, I'm not manually typing out all of these options anymore. And think about the extreme. If it's not 3 sports, but 30 sports or 300 sports or whatever, you don't want to manually type all of that out. You probably just want to have a simple Python list of those values. Or heck, we could even put it in a text file or a database if we wanted. But moreover, now that the server knows what the valid sports are, we don't have to just naively check if there is a value for sport, as we previously did. I could probably do something logically now where I make sure that the sport we did get.
Okay, so I'm going to prematurely say if not name or this value request.form.get not in sports, send to render. Failure.
Is one of the supported values. So now we have server-side validation as well. So how can we do this? Well, relatively straightforward. If we have this variable called sports, capital S at the end, I can instead do something like this. I can change my logic to say if there is not a value for name or the current sport is not in the sports variable, then consider it a failure. It's a very nice Pythonic way to let Python essentially search through the whole list of valid sports, checking for the value that the human actually sent. And if it's not there, we are going to return the failure template. So now if I go back to Frosh IMs, let's reload to get the fresh copy of the form. Let's type in David. Let's go ahead and not choose a sport and click register. I still have the client-side validation. That's fine. But let me go ahead and hack that by removing it. Let me open up inspect. Let me go under elements inside of this form. Let's get rid of the requirement for the name, even though I gave one. Let's get rid of the requirement for the sport, even though, so that I don't have to give one. Close my developer tools. Notice I still have not chosen a sport. Click register. It goes through, but we catch it. And we tell the user, no, you are not registered. Moreover, watch this. Let me go back to my developer tools. Let me go into the form again. Let me not only delete the required aspect of this from both of those tags, let's also change soccer to football, which, while technically the same sport across countries, is not the same string that we want in the server. So let's change soccer to football here and soccer to football here. And now, close my developer tools, type in my name, but choose an invalid sport that the server does not know about, click register, still catches it. Because now we are doing server-side validation. Woo! And I cannot express this enough. If you proceed after CS50, or even for your final project, let alone problem set 9, to implement validation of user input, you should never, ever trust what the human themselves are sending, and you should never rely on client-side validation alone. It's all too easy for someone who's just taken a single introductory course to disable all of your client-side validation. So if you value the safety of your server, the integrity of your data, always check server-side for valid values. All right, so what more?
Nice. All right, you guys, we are moving along quite nicely. We just crossed the hour mark on the stream. Coming up an hour and 15 minutes. Thank you for being here. Please leave a thumbs up if you guys could. If you're here, smash a thumbs up on the stream. I really appreciate it. It really helps to keep YouTube suggesting it to new people and getting new friends in here to give their perspectives and share their point of views. It's always really nice when we get some new people in here, such as all the new people that came in today. Thank you guys truly for joining me. You can, pardon me, join the Discord if you guys would feel so inclined to. I have provided all my resources in there for my personal notes to my projects, to books, to week course walkthrough or weekly updates and stuff. Everything is in there completely for free. I want to be transparent and authentic for you guys. I stream every single day at 7 p.m. PST after my 9 to 5 job. I have a degree in human biology and a minor in chemistry, and I work as a formulation chemist for a biotech company here on the west coast of the United States. I have been doing that since I graduated back in 2021, and I've been teaching myself Python and more specifically, computer science in general for the past about 6, 7 months now. So thank you guys so much for being here and joining me. Let me know what you guys are working on and studying, and why you guys are learning how to program in the chat. If you guys are here, you can also join the Twitch, linked in the description below, if you would prefer to watch there. Thank you guys for supporting me and leaving a thumbs up and subscribing. I really, really appreciate it. We're coming up on 2,000 subscribers, which is really, really crazy. So truly, you guys, this is really about all of us coming together and learning together every single day, little by little, kind of breaking those YouTube lies and loops of just, oh, I learned in 2 months and I got, and just making everybody feel bad about themselves, and it does no good. This is the reality of it. So let's continue on here.
What can we do to improve this kind of application? Well, we can tinker with the user interface a little bit, if only so that you've seen different UI, user interface mechanisms. Let me go back to the form here, and indeed we have now this drop-down menu, otherwise known as a select menu. Well, there's other ways we could get input from the user. In fact, let me go back to my index.html, and we don't have to strictly use, for instance, a select menu. We can actually use input tags to achieve what are called radio buttons, those little circular things that you can choose among, sort of like old-timey car radios where you would push one button and it would pop another out. You push in that button and it pops another one out. Same thing with radio buttons in the web. They are mutually exclusive. You can choose one, but not multiple radio buttons by design. So how can I do this? Well, in my index.html, let me go ahead and get rid of the select tag there and the select tag here. Let me go ahead and get rid of the disabled option. And then let me just go ahead and still iterate over all of the sports. But instead of spitting out an option tag, which is only relevant for the select menu, let's go ahead and spit out an input tag whose name is quote unquote sport, the type of which is no longer text but radio, the value of which is the current sport in this current iteration of the loop, quote unquote. And then to the right of it, just so the human has something to look at, let's also repeat the name of the sport. So again here, we're making a distinction, just like with anchor tags for links, what the human sees and what the server sees. But they can be one and the same. Let me go back to my other tab. Let me go ahead and reload this. And my select menu will now be replaced with some pretty ugly, but still functional radio buttons. Let me go ahead and zoom out so it all appears on one line. And now if I type in my name, and I select something like basketball and click register, everything else is the same, but I've changed the front end by changing the HTML. Of course, whether we're using select menus or radio buttons, we're still never actually telling the user why they're not registered in those cases where something goes wrong, where, for instance, they accidentally leave a field blank, or even maliciously they try changing those fields. So how can we go about being a bit more informative? Well, let me go back to VS Code here, and inside of our register route, which is doing the validation, let's do a little more validation than we are at the moment. And let me propose this. Let's be a little more verbose with our error checking. And how about this? Let's first go ahead and grab the name that the user typed in, if any. So name equals request.form.get, quote unquote name. And then let's ask a question, just like we did before, but with a shorter block of code. If not name, then go ahead and return render template. But instead of just simplistically returning failure.html with no clarity as to what has gone wrong, let's return a different template, error.html. And let's pass in a specific error message to the template that the human will see that's somewhat informative. And in this case, I'll say aptly, missing name, quote unquote, just so that there's more informative errors. Otherwise, let's go ahead and do this. Let's first get the sport from the user from request.form.get, quote unquote, sport. And then, as before, if not sport, let's go ahead and return an error, but this time with a message. Return render template, quote unquote, error.html, but the message this time will be missing sport. But there is something else that can go wrong here. If the sport the user typed in is not in our sports global array, global list, then let's return render template, quote unquote, error.html, but the message this time will be invalid sport. Now, ideally, users should never see this latter message at least, because only if they tried to hack our HTML, so to speak, would they actually be able to submit an invalid sport. But for good measure, you should assume the worst, and you should absolutely be handling this error, even if you don't, strictly speaking, need a user-friendly error message for those same adversaries. But otherwise, I think we can assume it's a success, as before, but we do need to create this here template. So let's do this. Let me go ahead and close success.html. Let me go ahead and open failure.html, but now close it. And let me go ahead and in my terminal window, create a new file, code of error.html, paste the contents of failure.html, just so we have a starting point. But in error.html, let's actually have a more useful message. Instead of just saying, you are not registered, let's instead say something like h1 error to make clear that this is an error page, and then maybe put a paragraph of text below it, even though it's succinct, and plug in that message that we passed in via getTemplate. OK, let's now try to induce this here problem. Let's go back to index.html. Let's get rid of the required attributes so that
I missed it. Slow. I'm slow. Sorry, guys. Message. OK.
Go back to index.html. Let's get rid of the required attributes so that I don't have to keep hacking my own HTML. But let's now go back to the tab with the web application, go back to the form itself, which in its most recent incarnation is indeed these radio buttons, and let me not type a name and not type a sport. Click register in just a moment, at which point previously I saw you are not registered. Hopefully this time I'll see a more useful error. Indeed, missing name. It's not a very pretty page, but at least it's giving me some information. So let me go back and type in my name. Now let me click register without choosing a sport. Aha, missing sport. And if I did again hack my HTML, so to speak, by changing soccer to football, that too would show an error, but invalid sport, according to my logic. Now, just for fun, we could make these error pages look a little more interesting. And in fact, what I'm going to go and do is this. Let me go back into VS Code. Let me go ahead and open up error.html. And below that informative error message, let's use an image tag. Let's specify that the source of this image tag is going to be that of a file, maybe a picture of a cat. However, as I hinted earlier, when we have static files like images or CSS files or JavaScript files, by convention, they should be in a folder called static. So in my HTML, I'm going to literally say /static/cat.jpg. I happen to know already that this is going to be a grumpy cat, hence the error message. So I'm going to give an alternative text for accessibility of grumpy cat, who's internet famous. And now I'm going to open up my terminal. I am going to clear it, cd ... to go back into frosh IMs, where again at the moment we have just app.py, requirements.txt, and templates. I'm then going to go
app.py. So frosh IMs. So let me go ahead and rename frosh IMs. It has a templates folder. And then layout is in there. Then it has a requirements.txt. Okay, like so. Well, app.py is the only thing that, so all of these are in templates then. Okay, so app.py and then requirements are the only thing that's outside of templates in frosh IMs. Okay, so he's going to make a directory here called static. Right, so static holds like things like images, JavaScript, static.
And make a new directory called static, all lowercase. I'm going to cd into it. And then with a wave of my hand, I'm going to go ahead and copy from today's distribution code a copy of cat.jpg so that now when I type ls, I indeed have a cat.jpg that I came prepared with earlier. Let's now go back to my browser tab. Let's click reload to still submit a form that's missing a sport. But now we should see, per the image tag we've introduced and the cat.jpg in the static folder, that I indeed now see a very grumpy cat for this error message.
Not a grumpy cat for me.
Now, using some CSS and such, I can make it prettier and make the cat not take up the entire web page. But for now, we've at least demonstrated how we can have a static file alongside dynamically generated content by putting that static file in the static folder. All right, so now let's actually do the most useful thing and start storing in memory these names and sports for which students have registered. Let's go back to app.py and acknowledge that at the bottom of this register route, all I'm doing is blindly saying success.html, you are registered, even though I've not done anything with the actual data. So it's in app.py that we have the opportunity to save some of that data. And so what I'm going to do is this. At the very top of the file, but below my sports variable, let's create one other variable, an all cap registrants. And I'm using all caps again to signify that this is a global variable, even though it's not constant. Let me set that equal to open curly brace, close curly brace, which even though we've been doing those curly braces all over the place in our templates per Jinja syntax, we are just in app.py now. This is Python syntax from week 6, where I've now created an empty dictionary or dict object in Python by using curly braces. This is the same thing as saying dict, open paren, close paren, which just returns to me an empty dictionary, but it's a little more Pythonic just to use the syntax of open curly brace, close curly brace. But why this? Well, if I've got names and sports, that's like keys and values. I might as well store that kind of data in a Python dictionary where the keys are the names and the values are the sports. So how do I do this? It's actually pretty simple. Right before I declare that the student is registered, let's just go into that registrants array. Let's just go into that registrants dictionary. Let's index into it at the name location that I want to put into the dictionary and set it equal to the value of that sport. And I'm simply using the variables that I created earlier for the purposes of doing error checking and using the name and sport in different places. But I'm now using that same variable name and that same variable sport as my key and value pair. Now, as an aside, this is a little naive of me, and it's not the best.
What if they have the same name? What if they have the same name, right?
This will not let two Davids, for instance, register for two different sports. Why? Because we're allowing one name to overwrite another identical name. So if two Davids try to register for these sports, probably not a good outcome because we're going to clobber or overwrite the previous person's registration. But let's consider a simple world in which there's only one of any name in the world so that we don't have to worry about that just yet. Now, let's go back to my other browser tab, clicking back in that. So get back to the form. Let's type in David. Let's type in basketball and register. Says that I'm registered, but who knows at this point? Let me go back to the form. Let me type in Yulia, and let's register Yulia for soccer. Click register. Claims that she too is registered, even though who knows? But hopefully in app.py, before success.html is rendered, we're indeed adding David and then Yulia and then anyone else to that global dictionary. And so long as the server stays running, that dictionary of keys and values is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But let's see if we can't show ourselves those registrants. Well, maybe the simplest way to do this is to give ourselves a third route. So let me say app route, quote unquote, /registrants. And then below that decorator, let's say def registrants to define a new function called exactly that. And let's keep it simple. Return return render template, quote unquote, registrants.html. But I got to pass in those registrants to the template so it knows what registrants to show. That's fine. Registrants equals registrants in all caps. So same convention as before, but I'm providing the registrants.html template with that global dictionary of names and sports. Of course, I need another template, so let's do that. Let me open up my terminal window. Let's go back out of the static directory. Let's go into the templates directory. Let's create a template called registrants.html. I'll close my terminal, and up here I'm going to do the same boilerplate as before, extends, quote unquote, layout.html, and I'm going to type every keystroke correct this time. Then I'm going to say begin, no, I'm not. Then I'm going to say block body, parenthesis, %, close curly brace. Down here, I'm going to say end block, and then the same. And in here, I'm going to output a list of all of the registrants. And I can do this in a number of different ways, but frankly, I think it suffices to maybe just kind of do maybe a bulleted list initially. So how might I do this? Well, I could do something like an unordered list tag there, inside of which I have a whole bunch of list items, or LI tags. How? Well, I could do something like this. For name in
Oh, I'm going to try to do this myself. I don't want him to spoil it for me. End block. Okay, so I knew he was going to try to use the loop here. I wanted to try it myself. Okay, extends that, block body, and block. So he's going to create a UL tag, an unordered list tag, and we'll say Ginger syntax for name in registrants, right? We want to, for name in registrants, we're going to create a list object, a list item, where we'll put in here name like this, and then we'll insert in here name, and then oh shoot, what's he gonna do? Let's see.
registrants, which is the placeholder, or rather the variable, the parameter, which was the parameter that was passed in. Then let me proactively close that for tag in Jinja. And then in here, let's do li. And then inside of the open and close tag, let's just do name for now. Before we take a look at the effect of these changes, though, I am going to open my terminal window, and I'm going to hit Control-C just to stop the server, and then I'm going to rerun Flask run just to ensure that Flask knows about this very latest version of my code into which I've added that global dictionary. Now I'm going to go back to my same browser tab as before, which is still running on TCP port 5000, and I'm going to try to register a couple of people. So I'm going to register myself for basketball, for instance. And I seem to be registered. I'm then going to go back, and I'm going to try to register Yulia, say, for soccer. And I'm going to click register. And now my hope is that both David and Yulia are in the server's memory in that global dictionary as key value pairs. So if I go up to my URL here and zoom in, and I change register to registrants and hit enter, I indeed see now a bulleted list of all of the names of people who have registered for sports thus far. Now, it doesn't have to be a simple bulleted list, because it would be nice to know what sports we registered for, but that's just a matter of HTML. Let me go back into VS Code and hide my terminal window. Let me go into registrants.html, and we can go all out in this if we want. For instance, let me go ahead and do this. Let me get rid of the unordered list tag there. Let's give ourselves a proper title of registrants, this time in an H1. Let's then begin a table, inside of which is going to be a table head initially. And inside of that table head will be a table row. And inside of that table row will be two table headings, namely name, as well as another table heading of sport. In other words, I want to have a two-column table, if simplistic, that shows me name, sport, or more generally, key value pair. Below the table head, let's go ahead and do a T-body for table body. Inside of that table body, let's now iterate over that same dictionary, but let's do it a little more pedantically, such that I'm going to do for each name in the dictionary in that registrants dictionary. Then let's proactively put an end for below that. And inside of this for loop, let's create a table row for each person. Let's create a table data inside of that row, inside of which is going to be that current name. Then, in the second column, via a second table data tag, let's go ahead and put the value of that key, the syntax for which, just like in Python, is registrants, but index into that dictionary at that specific name with curly braces on both sides. As in Python, when I iterate over a dictionary in Jinja here, in this here template, I'm indeed iterating over all of the keys in that dictionary. So if I want to get at the value, I need to use that key, that is name, to index back into that dictionary. Now, if I go back to my browser tab here, previously I saw all of this as an unordered list, but if I now click reload on my registrants route, I now see a big, bold H1 tag, registrants, followed by a simple HTML table, one column for name, one column for sport. It's not the best formatted, but I think if we introduce some CSS, whether my own or Bootstrap, for instance, we could make that even prettier as well. All right, with all that said, I think we have an opportunity for maybe one final version of Frosh IMs whereby we can actually store all of these registrations in a database. The problem at the moment being this. If I go back to VS Code here and open my terminal window, and either intentionally or accidentally.
Wait, so why didn't he have to give
second table data tag, let's go ahead and put the value of that key, the syntax for which, just like in Python, is registrants, but index into that dictionary at that specific name with curly.
Okay, yeah, so we don't want to use quote unquote name because that's literally saying at name. We want to say at the variable insert name, whether it be quote unquote David or Yulia. You want to
braces on both sides. As in Python, when I iterate over these X back into that dictionary. Now, if I go back to my format, even prettier as well. All right, with all that said, I think we have an opportunity for maybe one final version of Frosh IMs whereby we can actually store all of these registrations in a database. The problem at the moment being this. If I go back to VS Code here and open my terminal window and either intentionally or accidentally hit Control-C such that the server stops, or worse, the server loses power, or somehow the server reboots, everything I've stored in the server's memory and that global dictionary is going to get erased by default because I'm going to get a brand new dictionary when the server restarts. In fact, if I rerun the server now with Flask run, go back to that very same tab which had David and Yulia and click reload, all of a sudden we're gone. And the table is empty except for that heading. So that's not the best way to persist data. In fact, if that could happen, we might as well go back to yesteryear's pieces of paper to keep track of everything. But I think we can fix this. So wouldn't it be nice if we could use a proper SQL database instead to store all of these key value pairs?
Here we go.
Well, in fact, let me go back to VS Code here. And inside of VS Code, let me show you a database file that I prepared in advance. Let me maximize my terminal window. And I've just copied over already a file called froshims.db, which is a database just for these intramural sports. Let me run our old friend SQLite 3 on froshims.db. That puts me inside of the SQLite program. And recall that if I type .schema, I can see what table or tables are inside of this database. Sure enough, there's just one table here called registrants. And it seems that that table has 3 columns. An ID column, which is an integer, presumably the primary key, a name column, which is text that cannot be null, and a sport column that's also text that cannot be null. And sure enough, the primary key of this table is that first column, ID. So if I now take on faith that this table exists, even though at the moment select star from registrants seems to have no rows in it, I think I can write some code to put registrants there. So let me go back to app.py here. And at the top of my file, let's do this. From CS50 import its SQL feature. And then down here, a few lines later, let's go ahead and create a connection to that database via a variable called db. Set it equal to SQL, quote unquote, SQLite : ///. So even though it looks like a URL, you do need the third slash in this case, froshims.db. And recall that from week 7, this is how I'm going to be able, from Python, talk to that SQL database. Let's now scroll down to this registrants variable, which previously I was using to store these key value pairs, and let's just get rid of it altogether, because I don't want to keep storing these registrations in memory. Let's go down further to my register route and get rid of the use of that dictionary, because instead I want to do something now with SQL. In particular, I'm going to do this. db.execute, quote unquote, insert into registrants, maybe 2 things, name, comma, sport. I'm going to let SQLite automatically fill in with auto increment the ID column therein. The values I want to plug in, though, are these 2 with 2 placeholders, question mark, close quote. And the 2 values I want to plug in for those placeholders in SQL are name and sport, respectively. So here, too, I'm using the same terms, placeholder, but in the context of SQL, not in the context of Jinja. The syntax and the purpose is a little bit different, but that's exactly what we explored in week 7 with SQL and Python. Now, after that, I think we're good with the register route. What we do still need to do is get rid of this final use of that dictionary. Previously, I was passing into my registrants route that global dictionary, so I have all of those key value pairs. Now, a SQL table is not all that different from a dictionary if we focus on just two of its columns, name and sport. So how can I get at those columns inside of my registrants route? Well, let's create a registrants variable, set it equal to db.execute, and this part's easy. Select name, comma, sport from registrants to select exactly those two columns. That's going to hand me back a list of dictionaries, each of which itself represents a name value and a sport value. So if I now change this value from registrants in all caps to registrants lowercase, this is the variable being passed in the template. This is the value thereof. And I think if I go now into registrants.html, I just need to make a tweak whereby now if I'm iterating over those return values from db.execute, I need to be a little more explicit. So instead of iterating over a dictionary as I did before, I'm going to more generally iterate over a registrant in that list of dictionaries. And I'm going to spit out here registrant.name. And down here, I'm going to spit out registrants.sport. And it turns out in some contexts I can use either the square bracket notation or even the dot notation. The dot notation being a little easier to read because there's less syntax. But the reason I can do that is because, again, the registrants variable that I'm passing into this template is itself a list of dictionaries. And each of those dictionaries represents a row from the SQL table. And so if I want to access the name column therein, I can say registrant.name. Or the sport column therein, I can access registrant singular. This was about to be my next typo, registrant.sport. And so now, crossing fingers big time this time, let me go ahead and go back to the form itself. Let me go ahead and register myself for basketball because we cleared the memory when switching to SQL. Let me now go back again and register, say, Yulia, this time for soccer, and register. And now let me manually change my URL to be registrants, big time crossing my finger, and there we have it. David and Yulia, I was as surprised as you as it worked this time, but David and Yulia are registered. And more importantly, if I go back to VS Code here, select star from registrants in my database, there are those two rows. Moreover, if I exit out of SQLite and I go into my other terminal and even Control C and restart Flask with Flask run and go back to /registrants in my browser and reload, the data is still there. We have made now a full-fledged web application, if ugly, that is actually storing data permanently, full-time, that survives clearing of memory and even reboots of the server.
Okay, so I need to go back to where we imported SQLite. So from SQLite -- frosh ims.db quote. So then, okay.
Call that from key value pairs, and let's just get rid of it altogether because I don't want to keep and get rid of the use of db, maybe in the with auto increment the ID question mark close quote folder. But after that, set it equal to db.execute, and this part's easy. Select name, comma, sport, and a name value and a sport value. So if I now change this value from registrants in all caps to registrants lowercase, this is the variable being passed into. If I'm iterating over those return values from db.execute, I need to be a little more explicit. So instead of iterating,
so db.execute is returning me a list of all of the dictionaries, all the key value pairs, which happen to be dictionaries. So registrant is a list. Why do you have to use dot notation? I thought it still remains a dictionary.
Over a dictionary as I did before.
It's not an object.
And down here, I'm going to spit out registrants.sport. And it turns out in some contexts I can use
Must be an array. So it's dot sport. No, but it would still work with a tuple. I mean, it just means you can't have.
Either the square bracket notation or even the dot notation being a little easier to read because there's less syntax. But the reason I can do that is because, again, the registrants variable that I'm passing into this template is itself a list of dictionaries, and each of those dictionaries represents a row from the SQL table. And so if I want to access the name column therein, I can say registrant.name, or the sport column therein, I can access registrant singular. This was about to be my next typo, registrant.sport. And so now, crossing fingers big time this time, let me go ahead and go back to the form itself. Let me go ahead and register myself for basketball because we cleared the memory when switching to SQL. Let me now go back again and register, say, Yulia, this time for soccer, and register. And now let me here select star for if I exit out of SQLite, start Flask with Flask run. There. We have made now a full-fledged, full-time that survives clearing of memory and even reboots of the server.
Okay, got you. Cool. Jeez, we still have an hour left. Oh my god. I don't want to do them. I think we're gonna stop it here for the lecture watch along portion. I don't want to do another hour today. I'm cooked, right, on the watching. Like it's just a lot to take in at once here, and I don't want to get overwhelmed. It's good to take it in chunks. So it might have to come in 3 parts, you guys. I might have lied. It might have to be 3 parts. This one's a 3-hour lecture, so it only makes sense. But it's just a lot of new data information to take in, Yeah, it's using, Python that we know pretty well. It's using SQL, but which is, introduced this course, and it's using Flask. So it's using 2 things that we're just now getting introduced into. So it is a lot to take in, and I do want to reinforce this before we keep compounding further and further and further. Now, I am sort of following along and getting it here as my studying earlier today on my own, on my lunch break and stuff at work. I watched some videos by multiple people just to break down the actual getting started and what this actually was. I think my biggest issue is I wasn't understanding actually what the app route was, what the actual app Flask, what this was actually, the render template, the request. I didn't understand what these were going on, get, post. And so now that I've kind of wrapped my head around those things, it's really starting. Now I can just kind of focus on, okay, it's just now I'm using just Python basically to, once I kind of got out of the weeds of the actual how to get set up and what's going on, is now I'm just using Python to basically retrieve information from specific, specific elements within my HTML, and then basically returning templates, which are those various other pages that's been created by the front end. So yeah, it's pretty nice. And then we also are now finally getting an introduction here into actually getting some real world application with. David looks tweaked right now. Look at him. He looks geeked out right now. David is gone, bro. Look at it. He is far out. Yeah, so so it's good to finally see this. Now what I really want to do is in our small business manager project is I really want to actually import SQL now and use SQLite 3 to do these executions and then basically be the actual report generation from for the business information. So right in our business manager, we're taking in annual gross revenue for all of our years the business has been established. We're also reporting annual net revenue, which is based on the gross revenue and also the annual net or annual gross expenses, which are also broke down by category for all the years and by method for all those years. So it's we have various statistics and breaking them down to all these various categories, and so we're going to be able to now, use our convert, our JSON file into a database potentially, and then um, when making queries, converting it to a database, and so we might have to think about how we want to do it because currently we're saving everything in a JSON file. So, it's going to be interesting to think about, right? But how would you guys go about doing it, right? Currently in our small business manager, now we'll get into this probably after we finish this lecture and whatnot. Um, maybe the small business manager will even be our final project. We'll make a front end for it, and then make a back end as well that connects to it and stuff, and really use this to really put this into practice with our current project. And so, if we're currently saving everything in JSON and retrieving everything from JSON, how would we then be able to quickly convert? You should definitely take some time designing the database schema before you jump into implementation. Yeah, that's going to be another thing is I would have to also, like Outlaw says, is consider designing how the elements are nested within one another, or the information is, yeah. Well, I'll have to look into how to design schemas. Potentially, like if I wanted to make it like an actual like web application that a lot of you guys could use, we could make it like a sign login and sign up structure, right? So where you could log in and sign up, and then you can have your own personal dashboard for your small business, and you can make it a web app that has it all being within the, we'd have to, have the data be stored in the cloud somewhere because it couldn't be locally then, right? Hmm. We'd have to use like what, like I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but like, is it Docker or other stuff like that? That just I don't know. I linked in web dev Discord room a day or two ago a JavaScript to parse through JSON to grab fields. Oh, okay. So then Outlaw, would it be beneficial or would it be even viable to would it, for every query call parse your well maybe we could like when we my whole goal for it is when you're in the generate report section, right? You're not able to edit items. So at that point in time, you can technically solidify a document, right? So let's say you have all your items, they're being live edited and whatnot, and then once you click on option 5, which happens to be generate report menu, right? At that point in time, you won't be able to edit any more items. So while you're in that menu, everything that was happened before is now solidified. And so we could run a function to parse our current JSON into a database, into a DB file, and then execute across that the various functions that the user wants to filter. And then once they exit out, that file then just becomes kind of, we can just disregard it, and then once they enter back into the menu, then we reparse, from there. But that just would have to be doing a lot of work. But then again, the computer can do work it's not too big of a program. But these are all things we have to consider, and I'm just talking my ideas through. I'm trying to be authentic and tell you guys what I'm thinking about and how I kind of come up with my ideas and way of actually getting stuff implemented into my project. It all starts with just brainstorming and talking aloud to you guys here. So search up NoSQL for what you have right now. The best option is NoSQL. I would parse your existing JSON to send a database, then would refactor code to not use JSON. NoSQL is also an option. Dang it, refactored to no JSON. Woo! That's gonna be quite the project. Oh no. Everything uses it. Everything does. I already refactored off of CSV and that took me like a whole 2 days. And we've added so much since then. I mean, it'll definitely be a good learning opportunity, just giving us raw hands-on practice coding, refactoring, debugging, and implementing. This change. Would it be worth it in the long run? Do you guys think? Since you are Lens, hey, thanks, dude. I appreciate you for coming in and saying hello. Since you're already using a JSON file, you should probably use a NoSQL database like CouchDB. So I'll have to look up this NoSQL. Tim says tears. Should have commented. LOL, iterative design, bro. What do you mean by that? I'm not sure what you mean. All right. We will watch the last hour of this lecture tomorrow. Uh, this Frosh IM's this 45 minutes was so dense. This was like one of the most dense portions of this course. He went over so much. He made like in 45 minutes he made like you know almost near 5 files. Wrote almost near like 100 lines of code here. So it was a lot to follow just in the 45 minutes and break down and make sure we were following along. So I know it kind of seemed like a a drawn out lecture here, but I really broke it down here. So let's pull up the small business manager and show you guys what we're working with. So I want to implement some sort of database into this, so right now currently, this is what's going on, right? You have items that are being stored in JSON. Items are identified via unique item numbers, right? So item number, I have a function that generates an item number, which is basically the next number length plus one, right? Of this database. We also generate expenses, right? So same thing happens. You get an item number, but then you also have a value, which is the expense itself, which happens to have that item number inside of it, but so whatever. And then you have a business, right? The business creates income information and expense information and expense category. It houses the expenses categories and methods pertaining to this specific business. By default, you have a default name. And when you sell items, you generate gross revenue and then net revenue as well. When you generate expenses, you adjust your net revenue down, and then you can categorize down those annual gross expenses into their categories and to their methods associated. So it's a pretty cool. Honestly, it seems pretty simple, like in terms of just like on paper and talking about it, but it's pretty. I'm pretty proud of how far we've come so far and actually being able to interpret this and follow what's going on. Just like we've been able to manage and understand these nested dictionaries quite well and been able to make our way through the program. And we've come quite a long way. So it just goes to show you guys that, like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. And so, 30 minutes, an hour a day, really, or an hour every 2 days, or whenever I can get to it, really, really can make a difference in just actually doing some work, right, and getting started. Let's see here what you guys are saying. Len says, "Oh, MongoDB." So lots of stuff people are referring to, all these kind of packages or whatever, third-party stuff that I don't really know much about. I need to research. If you guys have good stuff you want to suggest, like MongoDB, all these other things you guys are suggesting, throw them in the Discord, and we can So we have saved references so we can go back and look at them. It's kind of hard. The chat, they can get lost. Why not a database file like SQLite? I don't know. I'm just taking ideas here. Iterative design. You realize the shortcomings of design after implementation, so you iterate to new, better ideas. Okay, got you. Well, that's just called growing. It's called growth, Outlaw Delta. Iterative design is the programmer's term for self growth. Oh, fun. So you aren't running on a server. Yeah, right. So it would have to be on a file, at least at this current moment, right? So SQLite would have to work. Professor was a machine today. I appreciate you guys. If you guys, we have 20 of you guys in here. Please, leave a like. If you guys have an account here on YouTube, you can leave likes. It really, really, I know it seems small, like really small, a gesture, but it is a small gesture, but it goes a long way in terms of YouTube promoting our content and keeping it, newcomers and people in the community chatting up. It's always fun, having more people chatting here with you guys, having conversation. I know Mahan can be kind of mean sometimes, but he's in here every day, so you do about it. Um, no worries, Ryan. I appreciate you, right? And then also, if you guys prefer to watch on Twitch, I'm on Twitch as well. Link down below in the description on Twitch. But Twitch, I can only stream on in 1080p. If you want to watch in 1440p, you can watch on YouTube. Are you suggesting that NoSQL use for a simple user registration test login system? What are you using for databases? Just these JSON files right now on the locally file system. Yeah. How can I log into his app without server as my database as a computer? I think I wouldn't use NoSQL for this. I think all the calculations you want to do would be easier in a SQL database. Yeah, because we are going to be having to do calculations, right? So the thing is these nodes within our database or these cells are, think of it like Excel, right? I needed something that can mimic Excel in a way to be able to house a formula, right? Basically all I'm doing is just mimicking Excel. That's all this project is. Like, if you really break this down, all of that I'm doing can be done in a 2D matrix that's just pretty big, but I'm just breaking it down into inputs for users to make it simple. But in all retrospect, there's nothing going on here that can't be done just in like one single Excel file, honestly. Or you could break it down into two or three for each items, expenses, and business, right? So that's currently what I'm doing right now. Is me and my girlfriend, we run a small business where we rehome vintage clothing. Our goal is to not really turn a large profit, but just to make a sustainable business, just to help out the environment and support her passions of just vintage clothing and finding good deals for her customers and being and whatnot. It really is not about the money at the end of the day. It's just about her having like a hobby. Is kind of what I set it up for. But at the end of the day, it does require a little bit of work, and I'm having to keep up with stuff through Excel and everything. So if I was able to, that's why I wrote this program, is I found a need in my everyday life to actually, make things easier. So I wrote this program, or I'm writing this program to basically just have all this, just have it me talking to basically like these prompts to just do it for me rather than having to go cell by cell, find things and do it myself. So all that's happening is, right, I have a cell called 2025, or a row, a column, I mean, annual gross revenue, and a row of 2025, and the value inside is being populated by a formula within our business.py called, initialize annual gross, um, initialize annual revenue with the flag type of gross, right? So it's just that's basically, I'm just mimicking Excel here in my own creative way now, because I wanted to have more. I know you can write functions and stuff in Excel cells, but they're just a little bit vague, and not as I can use Python to better manipulate it in a sense. So I kind of just recreated a matrix on the back end, and then I'm just inputting various functions to. That's really all it is. I have no idea where. Is he planning on the app being open to others to use while it's running on his machine? Is he planning on renting server space to run the app? Is he planning on renting a database? Dude, honestly, AJ, no idea. Oh, shout out, AJ. I forgot to give you I gave you a shout out earlier. I'm not sure if you were in here on the stream, but I saw your message on Discord regarding all of the tips you gave me for Flask, via post get and URL and all the links for MDN. I wanted to say thank you for that very, very elaborate. He gave me like a whole page of description and really broke it down for me. So I really, really appreciate you, sending me that, as well. So thank you so much. I shouted you out earlier in the stream, but now that you're in here, I'll give you your cookies now. Thanks, AJ. Right? You guys can ask on the Discord. The people in the Discord are really, really helpful if you need some help off stream. So if you're struggling, I've really tried my best to. I can attest that my learning has drastically improved just by my willingness to ask questions and look dumb. I know at times I can sit here, be puzzled and flustered and not know the answer, but I look dumb, but at the end of the day, I come away from it with learning and understanding. And so, and it's the quickest way to get understanding is to ask questions. So, and not be afraid to. So ask questions in the Discord and get people's advice. There's a lot of good people in there that know what they're talking about. SQLite is using SQL, but SQL normal requires you to run a whole SQL server as an independent service. SQLite does SQL stuff like normal, but instead it just reads and writes to a file on disk. It's easy. Hold on, sorry. SQLite is using SQL, but SQL normally requires you to run a whole SQL server as an independent service. SQLite does SQL stuff like normal, but instead just reads and writes to a file on disk. Yeah, exactly, right? AJ Brand. I thought he wanted to go for a big app. By big, I mean something open to all, like what you would find on the internet. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, we'll start slowly and expand from there. Is this app planned to be run locally? Or are you developing a server app that other will be able to connect to use? Honestly, dude, it's as grand as we want to make it. So as far as we want to go with this, I'm willing to take it as long as you guys are interested in following along with the project. I find that people online have had difficulties. I see the number one search thing online is I don't know what to make, or I don't know what kind of projects to make. So I think it's kind of fun to be making one live here with you guys. And we can really go as far as it would like. We can take this to database, to server, to front end, back end, to users. We're currently right now it's in a 1.0 phase of just being locally, but I'm willing and wanting to expand this as far as possible, if possible. It'd be cool. It's a great experience. Why not? Does that sound like it's fun, you guys? The server would do the writing into the database either way, Mohan, so the database wouldn't use matter to. The server would do the writing to the database either way, so the database wouldn't matter to the end user. I wrote Excel functions to calculate all my taxes, and it's absolutely disgusting. Yeah, Excel functions are terrible, right? They're so hard to read sometimes. I'd much rather use Python here. Hey, mind, smart building in public, the more exposure to people, the more opportunity to meet like-minded people. But why VS Code? If I were you, I would learn Cursor, the IDE, and Claude Code as AI. I learned Cursor, the IDE. What's Cursor about? Let me know. Why do you recommend it, Enrique? Thanks for joining me here. Appreciate the kind words. You're awesome. Thanks for joining me. Leave a thumbs up on the stream if you guys are here new with me. I appreciate you for following along. I stream every single day around 7 p.m. after my job as a formulation chemist, where I have a degree in human biology and a minor in chemistry. I graduated back in 2021. I've been teaching myself how to code in Python, and more specifically in just computer science topics in general, because I find it extremely fascinating on a personal level every day for the past, about 6-7 months now. More specifically every day for the past like 3 or 4. But, beyond that, it was a little bit more part-time. But I've been teaching myself about 6-7 months now. Yeah, I don't look up AI much unless I get stuck on some bugs that I don't really know. The prompts that I'll give AI are to, like when I was having some trouble interpreting what was going on with my JSON reading and interpreting some of the error messages, I'll throw those into the code, and then I'll go back in and debug from there. I will always preface, like, please don't show me code, because it is my own project. I want to write it myself. But I am okay, prompting the AI for just like a simple one-liner if I forgot, what a function does, or a simple example using cat, dog variables or whatnot. But in terms of actually what I'm working on here, I really try to preface it to not show me things, maybe explain. I am very reluctant to honestly copy and paste things in. I know, I think it was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday we worked on it. I did have some trouble solving a bug that was going on with, what we were iterating um, over our income information here, and I was having trouble capturing what was going on. So I ended up kind of just using print functions to debug what was going on. I was able to solve it that way. So, but I also, I did prompt the AI back yesterday, in all honesty, for a little bit of help too, because it was stumping me a little bit. But at the end of the day, I do preface it to help me learn rather than give me answers. I really am, like I said, against that. Um, he could implement a log. So you guys are awesome. Lots of chats here. Thank you guys so much for the chats. I really appreciate you guys being so friendly here and hanging out with me. This is really about just us hanging out together, peer to peer, and learning together. I'm a beginner and intermediate in this. I'm really not providing any advice or any of my own personal. I can give some input on my own learning and experience so far, but really, I'm trying my best to learn this alongside you guys. That's the goal here. So, um, just use whatever you feel like using when you get a real job. It'll all be different in the cloud, most likely, anyways. That's probably yeah, like that's what I in my personal job. They give you the way to do it, and you do it that way, and then there's no other way to do it, right? Super base is like there's so many. There's like always like a new tool. That's what's going. It's like there's always something else to some other library or package or something. There's super base or Mongo or there's always something. You guys are pretty smart. You guys know a lot of stuff. Also, I would recommend reading Levels IO book if you're building startup. I'm not really familiar with what your end goal is though. What's the project? I disagree. AI is the future. I can solve the problem. That's the next engineering 101. AJ Brady also choose, or Mahan says, choose NoSQL since he is using kind of dictionary like data NoSQL, like NoSQL. If it was only items, then yeah, SQL is good, but with user stuff and all suggested NoSQL, I don't know what's wrong with it. Yeah, I don't even know what NoSQL is, so I'll need to look into it. He could implement a login using a text file if he really wanted. Like what is his use case is. It doesn't seem necessary to use a full-blown database service right now. Yeah, I think right now we're just needing to scale up slowly. So the whole point of me introducing a database is so my goal right now is we're actually getting to a point where we're going to start to implement this goal. So we need to now generate reports back to the user of their business statistics, right? Having this in this JSON file really does no good because the user, the average Joe isn't going to be able to come in here and interpret what's going on. Yeah, you and I can kind of see what's going on and follow it, but they don't know what these brackets are and what all that means and stuff. So we need to have a menu within our program. As you can see, if I run here and give you guys an example of the run of the program, right? We need to have a menu within our main menu here that will basically think of like option number 4 instead of settings for 5. Settings will be 5. Option number 4 will be generate like report, like will be reports, right? So if we press reports at that point in time, we need to parse or like lock in our current JSON business.json information, because when you're in a reports menu, you aren't able to edit anything like when you're in these other ones. So at that point in time, it's like solid, right? We can technically take it as is. And then I want to maybe use SQL or SQLite to return back those structured tables of data. I don't want to use tabulate or whatever. I mean, I could try to maybe learn maybe I don't know like pandas. I don't something else to do it, but I never see anyone using tabulate nowadays. It's always talked about SQL and databases and stuff. So I'm kind of keeping up with the trends here, or the modernness. So I kind of wanted to stick with that and then also just get practice for what we're learning in this course and put it into play here. So um, I was thinking that those SQLite tables would be good for actually, generating and those visual displays back that we can just, filter through those joins. Like we can join these two columns together and select out these various columns and then report these back. I think that would be cool. Cursor is an AI powered ID, like will do everything for you. Oh, yeah, I'm not interested in really doing that. I'm more, I mean, if I already knew what was going on, then yeah, but I'm really trying to actually learn what's going on the back end and on deep down underneath, mathematically and, computationally and, on the hardware level even too, but just because I think that fascinates me. I know that, the AI is the trend and where things are going, but still at the end of the day, there are people that write books and novels, but people still learn how to read and write, right? So, I mean, if you kind of you can have the same viewpoint, I guess, is there are people that are way better, you know, basketball players out there, but people still play basketball. So, like, you know, and unemployed, Alex says that's funny. I like how Alex threw that in, and unemployed. It's fantastic for asking questions, having explained concepts to you in a conversational way. Exactly, it's exactly how I use it. Well, I guess I should stop suggesting also last time some dude jumped on me for helping Michael. Mahan, it's all right, man. I think you were the instigator of that one, my friend. I think there's multiple ways to go about it. It's just an open discussion. I don't think anybody's coming after anybody. Your LF block is indented wrong and it's bothering me. On my here, my LF block is indented wrong. Well, I know it's like really nested here. It probably could be cleaned up. My LF wrong is indented wrong. My LF block. This is the only LF block I can find. Lined up with that if, right? With its type gross. Web dev is oversaturated with tools and frameworks, a lot of solutions in search of a problem. Diffuse, what software do you recommend coding for beginners? Oh my gosh. Getting caught up with the chat here. Yeah, exactly, Lens. The line under 4 years ended and went out too far. The line under 4 year. Oh, I got you. I see. There you go. I got you. Thank you, Baseman. When's version 1.0? Because I need to track my egg prices. Yeah, Enrique, I have a degree in human biology and a minor in chemistry. I I just I have a job as a formulation chemist that I do this every day after my job at my 9 to 5 job already. So for the past like 3 or 4 months, I've been putting in like 12 to 15 hour days of just a chemistry and building products, making my company hundreds of thousands of up to millions of dollars on the products I build, and then B coming back home and coding and live streaming it and learning for 2 or 3, sometimes 4 hours every day. So it's just for fun. I'm a chemist by trade here, and whatever happens with tech and programming happens. We were watching the Harvard CS50X lecture today. We watched the middle hour here, and then we were just talking about the project here, maybe implementing SQL. I wanted to pick your guys' brain about it. We wrote this function yesterday, or we converted this one down to take this type here. But I guess really quickly, I'll probably stream for maybe until about 10 o'clock here. I guess we could write. a function here. Now I know it's really messy. I need to organize stuff. I tried to organize it into files, but then it started to break on me, so I put it back to how it was. But yeah, we've just been teaching ourselves here for the past 6 7 months, little by little. Um, let's go ahead and write. So yesterday we were working on finalizing up the ad. So in the settings menu, in the inventory settings, we can edit the sizing menu, and we got it to do this now, right? So in our not expense settings, we want to go for settings menu, and we're running inventory settings. So in our inventory settings menu, right, we are displaying the size, right, and then we have edit item sizing. So let me go ahead and we'll make this after here, we'll make a new line. What's going on here? Can't see what's going on when it's all warped like that. Oh. Okay. So we'll print a new line after this. And then, can I just do this without it? Without that? No, I need to. I guess I could put it over here, but I want to leave this one as is. We'll add the size. If the user presses 1, we need to add the add size function, remove size function, and clear size function. So here we will get, we can reuse our set function here for set name basically. So size is equal to set name. I know we can we're kind of just borrowing this function to use. Our set name function just takes it and titles it out and returns it back. So it's just for getting a simple string basically back. We're kind of just trusting the user that it's supposed to be a custom override here. So even if it's whack, like whatever, it's whatever size they want, right? So it could be 16 millimeters, but compared to our, clothing sizes here. Um, okay, before I trash on you, are you gonna build it for startups that's making money on angle? Just a hobby. Just a hobby. Uh, what is AWS, Alex? I'm not sure what you mean. Sorry. People have talked about it before. Plus, even if you want to bring a product to market at max speed, he needs to actually understand how computers work before he can make software. Yeah, that's true as well, right? So even if the goal is whatever the goal is, my goal is anyways is to understand how computers work. I'm a physical scientist, and so I make solutions, I make physical products and controls that are used to diagnose patients for like diabetes. I've made drug tests. I made artificial cerebral spinal fluid. I make all these different types of things, but it's just so fascinating that we've taken these physical raw materials and been able to process in a certain way and then add electricity, just shoot some juice through it. And here we are, a couple of years down the road. In the grand scheme of Earth, humans have been around for nothing, and we've been able to create a MacBook Pro M3 that I can stream to millions of people online. No, we don't have millions of people in here, but no, it's broadcasted to millions of people. If they so be it to click on the broadcast. But it's just so crazy. It's just so crazy, and I think that's honestly people really are numb and take it for granted and advantage of the 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 tools and the sheer power and education that humans have been able to figure out here. It's just insane. It blows my mind. People who throw AI slop together and try to sell are dangerous to their users. Baseman, do you think a lot of those new AI startups that people are doing are a lot of just, you know, recursive, for lack of a better word, AI slop, one after the other of just using the same tool in a different way just to do the same goal. Also, PMF or die is a guy who's doing the same thing as you but making money as his end goal. Interesting. Never trust the user. They are worthless. They're the worst. Amazon Web Service. Yeah, like some of the products that I require, require some in vitro CSF. So I've had to make it in the past, and sell it as a product. I think it's on our product line as a part of a kind of thing we make. I've made it. It was one of the first products I made when I joined the team. It's kind of like it was more of a beginner level product. Hey Pedro, how's it going? Thanks for joining me. Appreciate you for jumping in here. We're just building a program for fun here. We're just gonna add a quick little function here for adding some custom sizing into our structure, or allow the user to add in a custom size. So we're gonna borrow this set name function, which is gonna return a title cased size, but set name, set size. Oh, actually, we have a set size function I forgot about, right? So we uppercase the size. Yeah, so actually that's the perfect function we use. I forgot. It's been a while. So we're gonna call set size. It doesn't take any input type. That'll handle the error checking if it's already currently in here. And then that will add if it's not in return size. So then we have to add it in basically. So let's say we got to go to business, sizes, right? What? Where's it saving our sizes at? We're not saving them yet. We have them hard coded here. Okay, so we have to save them like we're doing the methods. Okay, so set size. So how did I do it with the methods again? So with the expense methods, I did add expense method. Create menu, expense settings, methods, plus new method. I honestly don't remember writing this. Can't remember. So why did I add a new method here at the end? Or concatenate to this list a new method? Why did I add this? What is going on here? If I go back, inventory settings, settings menu, expense settings, add expense method, business license plus method. I don't know why I'm adding a new method list to this current list. Plus quote new method? Um, all right. We had to remove that. At the end of the day, it's my stream. I got the final say. So, later. Peace. Not gonna be. I try my best to be. Every day I come in here and I try my best to be super nice and super friendly. So honestly, I don't really have any toleration for people not reciprocating. It's honestly no excuse. I've done nothing to deserve that, and I just if people are gonna troll or whatnot, then I don't got time for it because I honestly have given you guys. I give you guys my 100%. In terms of day in and day out of coming in here and trying, and it's just at that point that guy is just sad in his own life. So, all right, okay. Probably is like honestly, it's probably just like a 14-year-old kid that's just pissed at his dad. It's usually what it is. Or if it's a grown man, then dude, sad grown man. What kind of grown like So why did I this is why I'm getting kicked in the butt here. This is why I need to add doc strings. Why did I add a new method concatenation here of just a blank list new method? So expense settings, I call on if the case is 2 for add expense method, I call input. Oh, do I not even call this function? Return new method. What is going on? Oh, I'm starting to eat my own words here. My stuff is starting to get hard to follow. So when we add a new method here, current expense methods. It's printing out here. Press Q to quit. Try add method, new expense method. What is this function? Oh my gosh. Dang. What is this function? So I get user input. Do I ever call this function anywhere else? Let's command this. I do. Oh, I remember now. So I wrote this function because if the user so if the user provides a method at creation, I know I had to change it up, base man. I had to change it to give it an underscore. I could have used flag maybe. So I had to use so when the user so watch this. When I go let's just run here. When I go expense add expense, today's date, amount 10, description, test, category. See here, I can add a new category and a new method. That's where this is coming from. So if I go inventory for the category, but I say new method here, expense method. So in my add expense, I add expense method menu. So that goes to here. This is calling here. Why didn't this create this menu? Oh, shoot. I screwed myself by not giving myself notes here. Also, Michael, I could rewrite the notes I took for learning the memory allocation of the project skeleton for the allocator. Yeah, for sure, man. I'll take whatever you can get. I'm always interested in the stuff you hand over. um, for some of this logic, maybe eventually pull it into their own functions so the operations you're performing is named, especially if it's an operation that's being done multiple places. Yeah, that's what I was doing. As I really tried to abstract into functions here to do it. So like in the create menu, so it's pretty abstracted into the actual parts. I'm just getting the vital information that's kind of needed here, but I just don't know what I'm not following what I'm doing here. So when I create an expense, so add expense here, I give a new method. So I give a description via this here. I give a category via add expense category. I give a method, add expense method. Okay, so that's here, right here. So expense method, this is this right here. So I'm gonna go \n here. Expense method. Oh, that's why I did it. Okay, so in my create menu, okay, I'm gonna write a function here, a doc string. Okay, when this function is called when a user generates a new expense and wants to create a new a new method that is not listed in the current. Oh, generates a new expense. Hold on. So it says, I remember now. I figured it out, boys. We're back. We're back. We're back. This function is called, if you guys are enjoying here, I'm sorry I had to just remember what I wrote here. We're going to write in a thing here so I don't forget. But it's been a couple of weeks, months writing this project. So little by little, day after day. So leave a like if you guys are here. I really appreciate you guys following me along. We're creeping up on 2K subs, which will be crazy when we hit. I have some really big things planned, such as community projects, peer coding coming up on the stream soon. Getting into some math courses, machine learning, as well as some giveaways and stuff on the channel. I want to give away do some Pokemon card openings, like maybe like once or every other stream or something. Just to break up the stream and then give them back to you guys for fun. I think would be cool, just to help keep it more fun and light. All right, this function is called when a user generates a new expense and expense in order to assign a method to said expense. Oh, hold on. We'll say this function is called to assign an expense, to assign a method when a new expense is generated. Right, this function is called to assign a method when a new expense is generated. The user has the option to select from previously saved expense methods. Or generating a new method, a new one. Right, so this is an option in our create menu that the user can select to generate a new method, right? So when they select 3, they generate a new method, right? So we'll get the new method, we'll try to add it right, to our business.add method, new method, using our add method function, method that we wrote, add method. We'll save the file upon then, except if we get a value error saying that the method's already present, which, it shouldn't be because it was displayed. So we just have that checked there just in case. Because the method is a set, right? So if I go to business, I have where art thou? Expense settings. Yeah, categories or methods. No, they're lists. So I add accept value error while user input does not equal Q. Method already present. Press Q to quit. So we wait for the user to press Q to exit out of here. But this isn't doing anything because it's adding the method. Oh, our add method raises the value error. So if instance is not a stir, you raise value error. If new method not in, then you add it, and you sort methods based on that, which just does sort. We're not doing any sort of fancy sorting algorithm on this yet. Or I don't know at all yet. So we raise the value error and we catch that in the program. So I guess what we could do then is, knowing that information, right? This has the functionality to generate a new method. I basically want to reuse this function So what if I add a flag on here and set it to flag, and then I have flag equals to a tuple here, and I say the flags for this specific function to indicate it to do something else were to be well, maybe I should just write a whole new function because some of it might be similar, but I don't want to return a function at the end, method at the end. So it might just be more beneficial to write a function, new one. Let me get caught up on the chat here. Sorry, guys. The methods seem like they should eventually be very static, right? Wouldn't it just seem better to hard code them? Well, yeah. So, in theory, it's kind of I wanted to leave it up to the user to be able to allow them to dynamically add any methods that they would want because I don't know how they're paying for these expenses, right? They could be using a credit card, they could be using a personal, savings account, they could be using or however they want to categorize. It's really the methods and the categories for expenses. The category obviously is like inventory, equipment. They can add in these various ones, but by default, there's inventory and shipping for categories for expenses. Now, methods is like the payment method or however you transacted that expense. So I personally, as the creator, don't know what method that user might be. Now, I might hard code in a default of like, business account, right? Business checking, right? Might be a good one to hard code in there as because as I said, default one that they can then override that can't be overridden unless they come into the code and literally delete it out, right? Because that's what I'm currently doing for inventory and shipping on the categories because I am forcing automatic. You have to be able to sort by inventory and category or by category inventory and shipping just because you are generating inventory items that have shipping method that have shipping on them. From CS50X, what did you learn about C? Did it cover memory at all? Yeah, it did. We talked about malloc and memory allocation and all that jazz. Now it didn't get really too deep into what goes on the deep end, but it did give us a brief overview about memory and what's going on. And I know a little bit about memory complex or memory space complexity or whatever. In terms of big O and managing space and being able to interpret that through algorithms and at least on a surface level and do some easy leak code problems. But uh, I don't actually know what's going on under the hood of malloc and like what's being saved like by the interpreter or whatnot or the compiler. Um, I wish I want to know more about computer hardware. We're going to dive into computer systems. I was given a few books that were recommended by some viewers. I don't. I think it was Jacob that recommended it. Computer engineering systems book that he had his in college or something. I want to try to read that and get more information on it. If you plan the logic of your code first on paper, it might help you not get lost. Like there's two people coding. Peer coding, pair coding. Oh, okay. My bad. Shout out to all pairs. Pedro says, "Wait, so you have been learning CS for 2 months and are no, no, I've been learning for about 6 7 months now. I started the beginning of the summer 2024, but I didn't start going really like full time, not full time, like full investment and energy in it until about October November area. I started the channel in September." August, end of August, beginning of September 2024, and started uploading a little bit, streaming here and there. But then in November, I started going every day, and that's what's really been ramping up the content here. So I have had quite a few people come in, which I'm quite proud of in the chat that are currently CS majors. Tell me that I'm in getting advanced for my current timeline. Now I take that with a grain of salt, just because I don't really have anything to reference. But I really appreciate the kind words you guys tell me. We have that debate about current CS majors and their abilities, and it's just fun to think about that. Through this hard work that we've been doing it, you know, flags can be bad practice. So that's what I've been doing with some of these. Like, I've been giving this, like as what's his name, Baseman 14. He reprimanded me here. He scolded me for using type underscore here for the save file. Now I using that just to flag the type of file I want to save, basically. I have it for load file as well, but I also have it for some of these set names with like a prompt flag, basically. So I have the user give a certain prompt. I can give you another example in my business.py class. I have a flag here set for the we made this yesterday, right? So the initialize annual revenue function, rather than now I have a flag for net or gross. So I both of them needed to do this, about 75% of the same thing, or about 50% of the function was the same, but I just needed to categorize it a little different by this flag. It's not a flag in terms of like true or false flag, but it's just a flag in my own description of basically this or that, kind of like a filter used on the function. Is it better to have functions be single responsibility as possible? Yeah, so you're saying like for like the save file, like it would be better to have three save file functions, one for items, was like save items file, save expense file, save business file. Because at that point, it just kind of feels like I would just be writing the same exact code though. Like literally, like what's like a pitfall of it? Can you explain that maybe? Have you seen the solid principle? No, I haven't seen that before. Mind explaining it to me, Outlaw? I appreciate you and all your help you're providing me. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's go back up to our right. So let's go back up to our in our settings menu we call inventory settings, where we then um, right, we call inventory settings where we need to now get a size. So we're gonna say size equals get size that returns a size back to us if it raises the value error if it's already in there and catches it. Um, we're going to go into our business class, into the self.inventory business.inventory settings. Right, we're going to access the sizes dictionary, and the sizes key, which houses all the sizes, and then the value we're going to add to this. What is it? It's a list, right? So we're going to dot append the size to this value, to this list. Simple as that. So that's all it needs, right? So you're just going to append to the sizes list the new size given, with just the option of selecting one, which is add a size. Now remove a size, right? In remove a size, we're going to display. So we're going to do user input is equal to the create menu function that I wrote. Our prompt will be select a size to remove. Select a size to remove, and then let's add in a prompt. So we'll say what we're going to do is just add in right here business dot inventory settings index into sizes, because this is already a list and the create menu requires a list as its second parameter to create the menu. So that will display a menu, right? For all the sizes, we're going to say match user input to the following cases. So we can't call a match case here on sizes that we don't know, right? Because we don't know how many sizes are in here. So we just have to say I think I did this. earlier in my program for some function. I can't remember where though. No. It's not view. It's not set item number. Inexpensive business settings. So if I provide a size, I could do. Okay, so this is what we need to do basically. We have to say for I in range of business dot inventory of the length of business dot inventory information quote sizes, right? That's going to give us values. How did I handle this before if I don't know how many sizes are going to be in here? Because the crate terminal is going to give me back let me see here. Create menu. Today's date, standard, load file. That's a solid list. So what happens when I dynamically pass in a list I don't know how much is for? Okay, so let me collapse these. So think about this. So if the user is going to return a number. Okay, so what I can do then right, if the user input is going to be a number that's returned associated to a size, right, user input is going to be, we need to do this. Size to remove is equal to, AirPods be dying here, guys. Okay, let's write this. Size to remove is going to be equal to the business dot inventory settings index into, because it's a dictionary, the quote sizes dictionary, right? We are going to, this is a list, we're going to index into this list the user input -1. Why are we minusing 1? Because the create menu is increasing the option, right, that is, so we're going to have to also int user input because it's going to be given back in a stir. So this will be the index of the size to remove. No, that will be the size to remove. Right? So, and the index to that is just what the user gave back, int -1. So I can do this. So size to remove index is equal to just this guy here. Right, I'll break it up a little bit, and then I'll insert in here just the size to remove index, just to make it a little bit more clear. Right? Because we're not starting from 0 in the create menu. The create menu is creating options starting from 1, as you can see here, like in this and in this and in this. So we have to subtract it down by 1 to get the index starting from 0 of that associated item, because we're just printing out the list, or just using the list current order. Now, that gives us the size to remove index and the size to remove itself. So we're going to prompt the user with while user input does not equal to quote what should we say? Should we say press enter? It's not equal to yes, all lowercase. Right? We're going to continually say print quote we'll say f string, are you sure you want to remove, we'll say remove size to remove quote size to remove, not quote, right? We'll put this in a quote. Press or type quote yes to confirm. Size delete. Right? Okay. So we won't say this, we'll say while right. Well, equal to this. Size to remove type yes. So we'll continually gauge the user for input. Right? Now the only thing is we have user input here. Well, it doesn't equal yes, so it won't go in there. Will this work, you guys? Having user input, are these scopes different? I think this will be okay. Confirm input, confirm delete input. We'll say confirm input, confirm del size delete input. Right, we'll just make it really elaborate. How about like so? So we'll continually loop here. And we clear terminal here. Wow. And so we need to type yes to delete. That will break on a yes type. So actually we'll say this. Confirm input delete is equal to the create menu function with an input of this. Right? And then we'll provide the list of options will be yes or no. Perfect. So then we're going to do match confirm size delete input to the following cases of case quote 1, right, which is going to be for yes, delete size. Right? Case 1, we're going to take delete business dot inventory settings index sizes or we'll go like this actually. We'll take the business inventory sizes, which is a list, and we'll pop the size to remove index. Right? In case 2, right? Hey Zanab, welcome back. I appreciate you for joining me here. If you guys are here for the late night stream, we just crossed over the 3-hour mark, almost 3 hours and 10 minutes. So leave a thumbs up and a subscribe on the channel here, really on the stream. I really appreciate it if you guys could for a 3-hour stream tonight on this Monday. We're giving a real good session here, grinding away. So thank you guys so much for being here and joining me. The solid principle, if you make that 3 separate functions safe file type function, it'll make your code more readable anytime you call that function. But it's all give and take. More verbose versus possibly easier to read and understand. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that's true, Outlaw. I post an image on general of high level of solid. Okay, I'll look at that. Baseman, why is the return value of the create menu a 1 minus index integer but as a string? This makes me double sad. Um, because I just matched the cases of the like so how I don't know how I view it. I guess it could be written better, right? But it's just how I or more uh I don't know, not Pythonic, but more in lines with zero indexing. But in all honesty, it serves the purpose of like of getting the job done. Is so if the list you have a list of options. So yeah, technically, I guess this is the zero index, but the user is selecting one, right? And this corresponds to, I guess, a string in theory. It could have been literally, it could have returned the integer one, and I would have just been able to return one, right? So in my, let's go to the create menu function actually. Sorry for making you sad, baseman. Let's go to the create menu function. Right, so it has to be iterable. Has to be a list, tuple, or set. While true, you display the prompt. For every index and option, you enumerate options. You print the index plus one to get that menu effects, and then the title and strip on the option. Okay, so I do convert user input to an integer, and then I return it as a string. So I do actually deliberately return it as a string. So I'm only returning now. I'm not returning a one based index on purpose, like or I on accident. I am returning one on purpose because it corresponds to the first value given, right? Now, me as a programmer, I know I have to reduce that down by one to correspond to the index within that list given, but I wanted it to just match the the visual display here. Like I wanted it to, if I pressed one, I wanted to get back inventory. And so like if the user gives one, then, and so it's not typical that I'm selecting that I'm doing this like we're doing right now. This is not something that I've been doing very often here is where I'm dynamically having to write, right, see this is creating a menu and then the user will select a size to remove based on that. So that's I'm having to dynamically, index into it that way and convert. It's kind of like a one-off. I'm usually just typically, prompting the user for some sort of string representation of like a menu, the inventory menu, right? So I get what you're saying in terms of, no, I totally follow what you're saying in terms of the zero index, but I started from the one just to keep it visual with the menu uh, organization here, but also is I'm typically just going to using that one to do something to go to a different location. I'm not using that value, that user input, um, to generate an index. That's kind of a one-off like I'm doing right here. I've only had to do that. This is my second time having to do that in this whole program. In my opinion, if you return the user's option as a string like inventory instead of one or shipping instead of two, the code would be more reasonable. Just saying. Yeah, that's true as well. But I wanted this to be the whole point of this create menu function by returning just those single integer values. Now I could have returned them as ints rather than strings, was that I was able to then make it dynamic to be able to insert any list as the list of options to select from, and then that's returned. If I was returning back quote unquote string inventory, I would have to then search through the list and say if user input in No, because I guess it would correspond. No, it would correspond via if they pressed one and the returns quote unquote inventory, then I would say if user input equals inventory, go to this for the match case. So yeah, I mean, like yeah, so I guess you could have rather than pulling the one or the inventory, right? I could have returned that index in that I could have returned that option from that options list, but instead I'm returning the value associated with that option to do something. So I get what you're saying in terms of readability, because this would say if they press one, well, I would have to use the case of one because I can't read. I don't know what the. I don't know. Like in this case right here, think about and what I've highlighted right here, right? In this specific example, I'm dynamically inserting a list of options of sizes via the business inventory settings quote or index sizes, which houses a list of sizes. But I don't know personally, down the line if they've added or deleted or whatever. I don't know that. So by returning the user's dynamically created size, let's say of 14 millimeters, right? My sizes are in clothing, extra small, small, medium, large, right? I would, by hard coding in return values of quote unquote sizes or inventory, that wouldn't work because but by doing the value associated with it, I can dynamically access whatever the user put in and then get the size based on that index value. So if I was doing that, yeah, I probably should make these have been integers instead of strings. But I'm just handling the convert. I mean, I'm just converting again. I would have to convert. I don't know. We probably would speed it up slightly actually down the line, like all in all. But to actually handle the dynamic options of sizes, whether it be they edit it and say 14 millimeters, 15 millimeters, or like 2 inches is a size or something for like a tube or something, right? Whatever size it may be, I can't predict that. All I can predict is the menu options via the create menu function. So if I return the quote unquote 14 millimeters, well, I would have to have somewhere in my code somewhere to handle a return value of quote unquote 14 millimeters. But I just want to move to the next menu or something, maybe by calling, if they, by doing the number, if that makes sense. Hopefully, I don't know, that's kind of a lot. But so we're going to pop that value. If they don't want to remove the size, we're going to pop that value. If they don't want to remove the size, then we're going to just call inventory settings again. No. Edit item sizing. Right? And we're going to clear terminal here. So then what we're going to do, if we need to put here, edit item sizing. And then we're going to put here sizing there, insert into here all of this. Hold up. So this gotta. No, this is gonna be, sorry, not edit items. Well, refactor. We could completely derail this project by everyone. Yeah, if you guys just kept rattling off suggestions, I would never. I'd just be completely just toast. um, you still gotta write case number for every case. Can't be very dynamic since you're checking every case either way. I was just nitpicking. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I think live streaming like this would be semi-stressful. Getting live coding reviewed by multiple people when you're working on figuring out the logic. Yeah, honestly, I like I said, I really tried to tell myself that I'm not afraid of looking dumb. When, in all honesty, it does get a little bit, you know, it can be a little bit difficult at times, especially like days like today when we had a troll come in and kind of say that, we every once in a while we have a person come in and say that, it's kind of a waste of time, or that I'm doing things wrong, or that I'm dumb or whatever. And I really try not to let it affect me, but sometimes it can. It's a real person that's coming in and saying that, and it can be a lot to try to put yourself out there like this. So, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. You're totally right in that. That's how I feel with the leak code. Honestly, is I think that's why I'm more apprehensive to do the leak code on stream, is because um, it really makes me feel dumb, and I just feel, it just is hard to do that in front of other people. I guess it might mean like maybe it's just an insecurity thing or whatnot, but okay, so if the user presses one, we have edit sizing menu, edit item sizing, which is going to be all of this, right? Control X. No. So all these need to come up too. So this is all included in edit item sizing. Right, so case, match input, um, create menu, and the edit item sizing function right here. So here, well, X, that's out of there. Okay. Hold on. Okay, so we messed up more. We need to go. Oh, hold on. Save file, new size, clear settings. Try to add the new size. So that's on add. So in case one, add size. Right? Set size. Add size. So we'll take this actually. Clear terminal. Okay, while you breakout clear expense settings. Edit item sizing. That goes back to edit item sizing. That calls back to edit item sizing. Okay, so now we'll take this here, put this into the edit item sizing function. Right? Bring this down, bring this back to. So we print, match user, clear terminal, try add new size, right? We go this. Save file clear. Call. This is edit item sizing. Coming from inventory settings, call it inventory settings here, rather. And then everyone looks dumb at LeetCode, especially when people are watching. LeetCode is meant to make you look dumb in interviews. Well, trust me, I feel dumb doing it in front of you guys here, so we're getting practice with it. So we're going to get, in the edit item size, so in the inventory settings, right, we have edit item sizing. So if they press 1, we're going to clear the terminal and call edit item sizing. In edit item sizing, we're going to display the current sizes, say add or remove, clear, or edit, go back to inventory settings. If we press 1, we're going to add a size. We're going to get a new, clear the terminal, get a new size. So we're going to do print add new size. And then we'll make that like that. Right, add a new size with the space in between. Get a new size. Try to add it. If you get a value error, loop until you quit. Press Q to quit. Because right, clear the terminal once that breaks and run edit item sizing again, meaning that that failed. So he goes back to the beginning. So here we're going to go back to edit item sizing, right? Okay, so if they press 2 for remove, we're going to call this again, but do remove size. So I'll select a size to remove. We're already doing that with the loop. With this create menu, select a size to remove with the sizes listed. Get the size to remove and converting to index -1. Go to that index within the list. Sizes. That's the size. Print out a message saying confirm. If they press 1, right? If they press 1, we're going to pop. We're going to pop. And then call clear terminal and edit item sizing. If they press 2, we're going to clear right away and go back to edit item sizing, saying that we didn't want to do this. And then in 3, so this is remove size for match case 2. So in 3 is clear all sizes. Right? And then 4 is going to be back to inventory settings. Yeah. Oh my gosh, what the heck? Oh my gosh. This is a milestone. Oh my god. We've never gotten a super chat before. Whoa. Oh my god, David. Thank you so much. Wow, shout out David. Everybody give David as me some hearts in chat. Wow. This marks a milestone for us. March 3rd, 2025 at 10:44 p.m. David is me is our first ever super chatter on our YouTube channel. Thank you, dude. You're awesome. This is insane. Thank you for keeping us accountable to code, Michael. I hope I can overcome my challenges and consistency. And Angela, you course and get a job. Hashtag 2025. You and me, David, we got this together. We're going to be coding every single day here in 2025, hopefully, or at least as much as possible. Honestly, I will go ahead and kind of wrap things up here, but I will end on this note with David's message to us. I really, really, truly appreciate you guys supporting me day in and day out. But honestly, you guys, this is also just as much as about you guys as it is about me. I found that in my research online, everybody seemed to have a common struggle is that I didn't know where to start. B, I can't find the time. And C, I just can't seem to sit down and do it, right? And so I'm pretty good at holding myself accountable to do things, especially just because I don't really have a huge life outside of this in terms of in what I do, and so I am able to kind of hold myself and do this, and if that's in any shape, way, or form able to rub off onto you guys and you guys enjoy that as well, that's just the goal, is that we are able to come in here day after day as if we were renting a library study room back in college, or if you guys are currently in college, if we were renting one of the study rooms and just hanging out together and getting our homework done and studying and just making it more of an enjoyable process. I really feel that current college environment is just really stressful for the average student on the fact that there's so much material to learn and pressure just in terms of the job market and monetary pressures, that the burnout is extremely real, and the lack of kind of vision for the end goal can be kind of quite blurred, where you really only kind of grind for that letter grade and really kind of miss out on the deeper level opportunities for learning by pushing beyond trying to get a better letter grade and maybe going for a worse letter grade by doing harder and harder things. If I had the opportunity to go back in college right now, I would think I'd tell myself to take those harder classes, to not cherry pick out in my major some of those more easier courses just because of the time constraints or whatnot. Because at the end of the day, I was paying for those courses. They cost pretty much the same amount of money, but why would I have taken an easier one at the end of the day if all that really mattered at the end of the college education was how much material I was able to retain and learn from those 4 years in school? And so I know that can kind of seem twisted to the current environment of, grinding for that letter grade and that degree at the end of the year, but, or the end of that time there. But I think that we need to kind of shift the mentality to really pushing ourselves and using those 4 years as an opportunity to, you know, really push yourself beyond your current capabilities and grow in your education and as a person. By taking those easier courses and whatnot, I don't think I set myself up in terms of success as much as I could have having pushed. Now, yeah, I would have had a worse letter grade, but I would have come out with maybe a lot more skills and abilities to overcome challenges and learn and whatnot. So I know that's kind of off topic in the rant here, but I really appreciate you, David, coming into the stream day in and day out and supporting me. And I'll do my best here to support you guys as well, whether it be giving back on the stream through, giveaways, whether it be Pokemon card openings or fun little things, or maybe we'll save up for just like a mechanical keyboard or something, and we'll give that away to the channel members. I really want to, show that, your time spent here, um, you're yeah, that being said, defense industry industries care about first about GPA. Yeah, so that like I said, there can be kind of trade-offs with that as you know is that I would have probably gotten a worse letter grade, but I maybe would have been able to come out of it with a little bit more knowledge and whatnot. But you also need to also like Outlaw said is there are some trade-offs that you do have to take into account that some institutions do care about that letter grade, but um, you know, I think that the college letter grades they weight differently. Like, the fact that some people are able to cherry pick out certain classes and still get a same degree in the same area with a similar or a better grade is kind of, falsification or not accurate in my opinion. So that's just on the institution at that point, not on the student, rather. So it is their own, I guess. Um, but yeah, I'll be here every single day, David, to help you out and at least in helping keeping ourselves accountable here. That's kind of all I can really help out with because I'm learning this stuff right alongside you guys. So I really, really appreciate you, David. That was the first ever super chat I've gotten in this streaming career so far. So it's just, that's incredible. Thank you so much. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah. All right, you guys. Um, what else do we have here? Let's quickly before we wrap it up here. I said I was gonna get off at 10. It's almost 11 now. Jeez Louise, time flies when you just keep it moving here. Um, let's see, where were we? We were at not on view, not on item search, not sect active. The edit item sizing, right? So they can add a size, they can remove a size, they can clear. So we'll say basically we'll take the same menu prompt here for clear terminal. We'll say confirm clear sizes. And then we'll say I can't get over that. I'm like on cloud nine right now here, y'all. That was crazy, David. I honestly, you don't know how far those small gestures really go to like smaller streamers and people. That's I've spent a lot of time grinding here. Really trying to learn this, just hours and hours. I think total on the stream we've probably put in over close to 500 hours now. I would say is a rough guess, just in terms of our time so far. So a good probably close to 300 to 500 hours so far of just learning, which is substantial, right? So we got a long ways to go though till we get that 10,000 hour mastery mark, and you know, it just goes, it just is, it's a lot of hours to put in and time. And so just those small little gestures back really just you get hit with a huge endorphin release of reward. Like, wow, like it's paying off. Like, thank you so much, David. I really appreciate you. I honestly, you come into the streams day after day, and I really enjoy your input. Okay, so confirm delete. So match case or match confirm clear size with case quote one is going to be um, mm, how can we, is there a function to clear? Is there a clear function on a list? List.clear? Ah, there is a list.clear. Yes. Okay. Take our sizes list and clear it. And then case that's often how it works. I often am like, I think that there's a Python function that does that, and I'll look it up, and then boom, yeah, I remember right. And then in case two, if they press no, we're going. So this we're going to clear terminal. Call sizes print sizes cleared, and then we will call back to the edit item sizing, right? And then if they press 2, we're just going to clear terminal right here and go back to edit item sizing. Right. So let's test this out. If you go in here, go into settings, inventory settings, edit item sizing. Current item sizing is this. Edit item sizing, add a size, test, error, available sizes. Okay, so we're not, our add size isn't working appropriately. So add size, if not instance of stir raise, category stir, if size not in, append it, else raise already in sizes. Error sizes. Huh. So here's not working. Add size is raising a value error as E and returning available sizes. Raise value error. Huh. Not sure what's going on. Man, the grind is real, huh? Studying for a phone interview for sys engineer. Finally got an interview offer after a year. Sweet, dude. Avinash, congrats. Let's get some hearts in chat for Avinash. Some 100s. I'll throw some hearts in chat. Avinash, that's awesome, dude. Appreciate you sharing that with us. Congratulations to you, my friend. That is some fantastic news. It's always great to see someone succeed in the chat here. So exception value error as E. Oh, so set size isn't working. So set size, our function set size set inventory functions, set size, error available sizes. Okay, so the set size, what the set size function is doing is it's giving it's you're declaring a size. If it's not within that, then you're right, you have to give a size that's available. So the set size then won't work for this program because we need to instead so let's just do input, right? Dot capitalize. No, dot upper because sizes are upper. Okay. So let's go here, settings, inventory settings, edit item sizing, add size. Okay, so, right, we don't have an input prompt, so we'll say, clear terminal goes there. So here, let's go run. Settings, inventory settings, edit item sizing, add size, new size. Let's say, let's just do test. Boom, test, there it is. Cool. And so then in business.json, business.py, we have sizes here, inventory settings, inventory. So we're not saving the inventory settings. So up here, or in the save file, no. Start menu. We load in these ones, pre-existing. So where are our sizes at? Are in inventory settings. So now if I go well, I don't have a way to get back. Oh, 4. This menu, exit. So those are still how they are. But if I load inventory settings, test is no longer there. So it's not being saved. How was I saving the methods and categories? Set date created, sizing, item number, inventory settings. So and then in add settings mean transaction, confirm exit, expenses menu, expense settings, Set ship method. Shoot, what did I want to do? So I wanted to. So in expense settings, I add a category. I save file the business.json at that point in time. So in my inventory settings, or in my edit item sizing, I save file here and add new size. So in save file, let's go to save file. I dump business to dict here. So business to dict, I need to add in here the inventory settings. Expense information. Expense settings. Where are those at? Here, categories method. Okay. So we'll do quote inventory settings quote self dot inventory settings like such. So now if I go here, yes, settings, inventory, edit item sizing, add size, test, business JSON, there it is. Cool. All right, we got it. Just like that. So now we have sizes being saved into in inventory settings here. So this is encapsulated with an expense setting, so we might want to edit that even further down to where you have expense information, income information, expense information, inventory settings, expense settings, all items, all expenses, name. So I need to change these from their individuals to the expense information. Okay, sweet. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me here. I really appreciate you guys joining me here. We streamed for 3 hours and 50 minutes, 55 minutes, so almost 4 hour stream today on a Monday. So really, you guys throw a thumbs up if you guys are still here for the late night crew. There, we have about 10 or so of you guys here. So thank you guys truly for joining me here and staying with me this long. Please leave a thumbs up if you guys could, for being here in the late night crew. We did a 4-hour stream on a Monday. That's a really quite the long stream, considering I did do an 8 to 5, have an 8-hour workday today with a hour and a half, 2-hour commute. So that's 10 plus another 14-hour day here so far. I'm still rolling. Grind don't stop, just like Avinash said, and David said, we are here every single day grinding away. And shout out to David is me for also throwing a super chat, our first super chat ever on the stream. So super cool milestone we got today. Shout out David, super awesome guy there. Thank you guys for joining me here. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 7 p.m. PST like normal. We'll be back to finish up the Harvard CS50X Week 9 lecture on Flask, the last hour, and then we'll continue on with some practice into the Small Business Manager and finishing up some reading in the data structures and algorithms in Python. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'll see you later. Bye, guys.